Do you have this set up to go
It should go right to Restream. Is it going to?
That's where my mouse is going.
Yeah, up is it.
Okay.
You just pull down, it goes into that.
All right. Yeah, I think we're good. Take this splash screen off. All right. There, you're live.
Josh Coffey, welcome to the Freeborn Podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, we're glad you came in. Long trip for you.
A little bit.
Little bit. How long was it out here?
About an hour. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it was good. We had the iPad going for the kids. So it was a sane drive. Yeah, man,
Yeah.
I love it out here. It's real pretty and peaceful.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's real peaceful until my wife wakes up. Oh, so you are in cybersecurity? Is that what you do? No, you were.
Yeah, once upon
remind
a
me
time.
Yes.
So I paid my dues in help desk, and you know my email's not working. Type stuff. And then I realized I hated that, and
I was going to ask you, how much fun is that?
It's so bad.
It is bad.
It is really, really bad. But it is necessary. It is absolutely necessary on the grand path to specialization. Then I got into network security at Rackspace, which was a lot of fun. It was like a frat party. Just like a fun environment, startup company, but it was a ticket factory and stuff. And then I went to do super secret security for the government, and that was awesome. But it was also boring because it was the government, and you can't do anything ever without like 4 million people signing off on it and briefings, and it was boring.
Mm-hmm.
So
I actually worked in that same building, just not on the security side. I worked on the installation side.
Yeah.
I built the building. I was there when they built it.
Very careful about what I say about
Yes, I understand.
that particular role I played. Then I moved into cloud, and cloud has just everything from security to networking. And right now I build pipelines for developers.
Okay.
So, yeah. Security is just such a pain in the butt that nobody wants to do it because everybody's like, let's get to market. Let's get to market and start making money. We'll secure it after the fact and just pray to God there's not a data leak.
And is that why there's so many of them?
Yes, that is 100% why there's so many of them. It's just like an afterthought, and nobody wants to put the time in to build stuff right. They just want to build it fast.
And how secure are our computers and devices?
It depends on how up to date they are, patched wise. If you, and a lot of it depends on the user, and like the way that Hollywood has portrayed hackers is false.
It's not. No, it's false.
Yes, 100%.
No.
There is, I don't care. There is like no dude who could just like type on a computer and be like, all right, I'm in. It's like, no. I don't remember the percentage, but recently I read that like it has to be 80s or 90% of data breaches start by social engineering. Some kind of phishing email with a bad link in there that gets you to click and enter some credentials. Like there's a site that's cloned that makes it look like your corporate email, but it's not really your corporate email, and the hacker goes from there.
Explain that a little bit, because I suspect that a good portion of my 3 people who watch the show don't know anything of what you just said. And so, so they'll get an email.
Or a text message.
My dumb listeners, because they got to be dumb to be watching this show. I don't mean to insult them, but really, there's a lot of options out there. And if you're watching this, there's something wrong with you.
I'll offend them. Like, we'll get that number down. Because we're getting canceled today,
yes,
right?
we are aiming for total cancellation.
Okay.
Total cancellation.
All right, I want to go into fat women later. Just so you know.
But only fat white women.
Right.
Yes. So they'll get an email. And it'll say, hey, there's something wrong with your Amazon account, or there's something wrong with your Amazon whatever.
Right.
And click on this link, and you take it from there.
I love those links. They always offer me like $500 in gift cards. I just have to give them all my information.
Right, exactly.
I'm waiting for like $10,000. I keep clicking on these links.
So at its most basic level, there's a what's called the social engineering toolkit.
Uh-huh.
And that is your in levels of hackers, you have your script kiddies, and these are aspiring hackers. They're guys who just download pieces of code off the internet. They understand a little bit about the craft, but they don't know anything. So you can download this social engineering toolkit, and you can tell it, go clone Facebook. And it'll say, okay, I am now Facebook. I'm listening on this port. Here's your malicious link. So you take that link and you put it in an email, and you can manipulate email headers to make it look like it's coming from anyone. I used to do it in college. I got in a lot of trouble. And this email shows up and it appears to be legit. But there's always something off about it. You know, if it'll say it's from Nolan. But if you hover over Nolan, it'll say some wackadoo email address. You know,
correct.
Some hacker.eu or RU. Let's be honest, it's Russia.
They're with the Russian listener.
Yeah.
Let me just throw in the Chinese virus. There, we got rid of him.
Exactly. So the link goes, and you can see it run through a bunch of redirects if you're watching the top bar, the address bar, and it'll eventually say like, secure or reset password.myunsecureaccount.com or whatever domain they bought, and it's definitely not facebook.com. And you're not going to have the little green check mark for the SSL certificate and all that good stuff. And it just at face value, it looks like the Facebook login page. And when you enter in your password, it goes to the hacker. It doesn't go to Facebook. And if the hacker's sophisticated enough, he can take the username and password, steal it, and then redirect you to Facebook.
So you never knew that you gave it to him.
Right. It's called a man-in-the-middle attack. So that's how a lot of breaches happen. And, I mean, there's a ton of stories you can look up on just how ethical hackers have performed penetration tests, and the most difficult. One of which is, I don't remember the situation, but these guys were locked down. Their users were educated. Every attempt that these guys made to get in, it was thwarted, you know. And eventually what they did was they found the name of someone this company did business with, like a distributor, like Coca-Cola or something. And they sent the chief technology officer's secretary a Coca-Cola mouse. Like, thanks for using Coca-Cola. But in it, they took it apart and they put a little USB device in the mouse that stole her credentials and dialed home.
When she plugged it in.
When she plugged it in. So she thought this package came from Coca-Cola. She's like, ooh, I got a new Coca-Cola mouse or whatever it was. And she plugged it in and boom, they were in. So they had to go to like great creative, like, how are we going to get into this?
But a lot of hacking is actually human user error, isn't it?
Human user error, and
if you, like you say, when you watch the movies, there's like they can hack in like through your computer without you ever interacting with you or anything. They just like can type. I'm in, like you were saying. And most hacking is actually done through getting you to make a mistake.
Yes.
Because it's a lot harder to actually crack into a computer than what people think it is.
Or even a lot of phones, you know, like that's nearly impossible. You know, if you can run scanners on your network, like every device that's connected to your Wi-Fi, you can scan it. And I've done it at home whenever we're having people over, and iPhones, they won't even respond to the scan. Like a default scan, not even going to happen. So, and it's not like iPhones are running services. So to get into something, usually it has to be a service running on a server. Like you're going to attack a web server. And the easiest web servers to attack are the outdated ones that are running an outdated version of Apache or whatever the web service is. That's going to be your easiest. Other than that, you are looking through the web developer's code for something you can exploit. And it's just boring.
Yes.
You know, I mean, there's a website called hackthebox.eu, and it is where hackers can gather, and it's a sandbox environment, and you can choose what you want to try to learn to hack, and it'll stand up a server and yada yada yada, and you can legally, safely try to become a hacker. But the cool thing about that site is you have to hack your way in, because the first thing it asks you for is what's your invitation code, and there's no way to get an invitation code. You have to hack that process to get an invitation code.
Oh, okay.
So it's pretty neat.
That is cool.
Yeah.
In another lifetime, I would have loved to have known about that, or that had maybe have existed. I'm not much into programming anymore. I can imagine hacking is like debugging, but someone else's code, which is even worse than debugging.
Yeah.
Debugging your own code is boring enough.
Yeah, I played on hackthebox.eu, and there's like a ton of different, like, you can go into steganography and like all the different sections of, like, subsections of hacking, and you know, hiding things in pictures and yada, yada, yada. And it was fun for about a month. And then I was just like, what am I doing? I'm wasting entirely too much time on this. I don't do this for a living anymore. But I mean, it's like a puzzle.
Well, yeah, that's exactly what it is.
It's like a puzzle. So in it is very realistic. It's not like, it's not like they're training you to become a Hollywood hacker. It's just like, there's a Linux distribution called Kali Linux, and it comes with a program called Metasploit, and it is just like go gadget hacker tool. And you know, it's all automated. You don't really have to know a lot to use it. But hack the box takes you old school. Like, it's like, all right, you need to learn.
You're gonna learn the actual skills.
You have to know your Linux foundations. You have to learn your Windows foundations. You need to know how networking works, all that old school stuff. So it's a lot of fun.
No, that would be a lot of fun if you're into computers. So most people get hacked, at least the ones, because I still do some helping people with computers. I try to do as little as possible because, like you say, it's horrible. It's just horrible. And I used to get everyone in the church would call me to help them with their computer all the time. And they quit doing it. I don't know why.
You don't know why.
I don't know why, but I'm very happy because it's terrible.
I think everybody knows. I mean, that's the last call they make is you. They'll wait on the phone with India for 10,000 hours. And all right, let's call Michael.
So now I'm down to where I just help my very immediate family is the only people I help now, which is good.
I helped Laura and Danny with a laptop that they took on their trip. They had got it. I don't remember where they got it from, but they needed root access to it because it was locked down for whatever reason. And I spent a shameful amount of time with this laptop and like root exploits, and like I'm using shell code that I haven't, like trying to dust off brain cells that I haven't used in 5 years. Like, oh, I know, because it was so old and outdated. Like, I knew there were exploits for it, and I'm trying to do this, and I finally realized, like, I'm an idiot. I have this in front of me. Like, I just turned it off. I held down like the combination keys to go into recovery mode and reset the root password that way.
Correct.
But like I said, I spent like half an hour trying to do kernel level injects, and like I was so excited to have something to hack, you know. I didn't realize it's like a 30-second job, just like Command R power button and go into recovery.
Yes.
I'm an idiot. Sometimes I'm an idiot.
Yeah, well, we've all done that. But yeah, so you know, most of what I find that people are getting hacked with, they think they're getting hacked by what they see on TV.
Right.
That people are like hacking into their system. And I've never seen that happen to anybody that I know has been hacked. They have given away the information.
Right.
They typed in their Facebook password on a website that wasn't Facebook. They had a family member who got a call saying they've been hacked and that they needed to send them a gift card and install this antivirus, which those are the worst, in my opinion, are the worst things you put on. They tend to be viruses themselves.
Yeah.
And yeah. And so, I mean, what would you tell someone is they should do? Like if you get because my wife gets them all the time, texts and emails all the time from Amazon, from Facebook, supposedly saying there's a problem with your account, click here, and so we can get this settled. And what would you tell people?
Don't be stupid.
Well, we've already, that ship has already sailed. So if they're stupid, what do you do?
Okay, if you're stupid, read it. You know, okay. So going back to like my pains of IT, how many problems could just be solved by reading? I'd get phone calls. Hey, I tried to open Microsoft Word and this thing popped up. Okay, what's it say? It says I need to insert the installation disk. Do you have the installation disk? Yeah, it's right here. What do I do? Put it in the CD tray. I hang up the phone. But I couldn't say that because I needed money and I liked my job a little bit. Anyway, so read what it says. Okay, you get an email, you get a text message, there's a problem with your Amazon account. Delete it. Go to Amazon.com.
Nurse, type in, and this is important.
Right.
Type in Amazon.com. Do not click a link.
Do not click the link. Read what it says. Close your email app. Close that tab in your browser. Close whatever, and then open up your Amazon app or your web browser. Go to Amazon.com and see. You know, you're probably going to have a notification if there really is a problem with it. And if you want to be just extra super safe, reset your password. You know, I mean, most of the time it's called phishing. You know? And then there's some that's called spear phishing. That's if, like, I knew that you used Cabela's. Like, I know for a fact that you use Cabela's, I would send you something from Cabela's. But yeah, just don't be stupid. Think about it. Think, you know, is Amazon on the news for a data leak or a data breach? Probably not. You know, so for you to get a special little text message that says there's something wrong with your email account without hearing anything about Amazon in the news, it's probably a lie.
Right.
But does Amazon actually even send through text messages, or do they use like notifications, an Amazon notification that goes to your phone? Because I've always, anytime, so like I'll get text messages saying something's wrong with your package, right? And I'll have a package being delivered. Click this link to go to Amazon, and you can, you know, give the delivery guy more information. But
Okay.
I'll get notifications from the Amazon app saying they're having trouble finding you from Amazon. So.
Yeah, we got one of those yesterday. Terry did, and I always tell her the same thing: never click on any text.
Right.
Go into close that. Go into the app. If it's the same, if that's true, it'll be there and interact through the application on your phone, which is more secure in my opinion for the average user to use the apps as opposed to going through websites.
That'll solve so many problems. Just don't deal with the convenience of clicking a link that looks shady.
Yeah, it's a real short link,
and this is the same with like bank stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
Any company that's sending you a link, even if it's legit, do not click on the link.
Right.
Like when I get stuff from the bank, I never click on it. I go to their website, or I use their app, or I call them on the phone.
Yeah, and I don't know which SSL company it was, VeriSign or whatever. Whoever thought of like making the top left of your URL green, like giving you that safe feeling. That was genius marketing. Because I think they charge more for an SSL certification or certificate. I keep saying certificate than like the other people you can get SSL from. So SSL is that little HTTPS, S for secure.
Yeah.
That makes your connection encrypted and all that good stuff. So you can do online banking and not transmit information in clear text.
Yes.
So.
Yeah. Yeah, all you that have been hacked, or I've seen lately, you know, my Facebook has been hacked, my Twitter, whatever, and you think, well, somebody got into my computer. No, they didn't. You gave them your information.
Right.
That's what happened.
Right.
And they just sent out mass emails you clicked on it, you typed in your password, and that's how they got in. That's how they're not out there guessing passwords.
Right.
That would be so inefficient.
It's a pain. It's a pain. There's a list. It's called rocku.txt. You can find it on GitHub, and that is one of the de facto standards of password cracking. So if you use a password cracker, you find somebody's hash, whatever, you first thing you do is you see if it'll run through Rocku, and it's, I think, 14 million lines of code. Not code, but passwords.
Mm-hmm.
And it's as simple as, like, guess this one.
Yeah, it's a brute force attack.
It's a brute force attack. So it goes through 14 million lines. It takes forever, and it's probably not in there.
Yeah.
You know? So it's
especially since now passwords are case sensitive and allow special characters, and so all you can use a normal word, which would be very insecure, and put a special character in the middle, and then that makes it much more complicated.
Yes. And let's talk about multi-factor authentication. Set it up. If Amazon offers it, set it up. So if
explain what that is. Again, you got to remember. I don't think all my viewers know what these terms are.
Multi-factor authentication. Multi means two or more. What it is essentially is you tie it to your phone. There's an app. The most useful that I've found is Google Authenticator. You tie it to your Gmail account, and a lot of companies will just say, we're going to send you a text message. So when you log in, you put in your password, you hit enter, and then it sends you a text message with 6 numbers in it. So the multi-factor part is those 6 numbers. It's like a second password that's like generated at the moment. Password, and those 6 numbers should never be the same, and they're only valid for 1 minute. Like RSA is like, people used to carry those little RSA tokens on their keychains. Mm-hmm. Like that was the most popular, and then they took that and made it a service, and now anybody can use it and set it up.
Correct.
Really easily.
That's how a lot of some of my banks are set up that way.
Yeah.
Apple does all their stuff that way.
Right.
So if you have iCloud or whatever, that's what you're going to have. And so if you have iCloud, you may have already interacted with this. And yes, I agree. I like that a lot. It's a bit of more of a pain, but a lot more secure.
And how often are you logging into things? Like, let's be honest. You set a lot of stuff to just remember you. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, unless it's a bank.
Yeah.
And I don't log into my bank every day.
Right.
Am I not normal? Do you log into your banks every day?
Well, I do it for business, and so I log in more often.
Right.
But I use the apps when I do the banking. I don't have to do that because they're tied to the actual device and to the app instance on that device.
Right.
And so you can't copy that over into another device the way they are. It's extremely secure. And so rather than using the computer, I use the iPad for my banking.
Right.
For most stuff I do.
Mine's all tied to my face. I just like
exactly, which is another great thing. Get a phone that has Face ID in it.
That's a little scary to me because I don't know. I'm always worried about getting arrested, even though I'm not a criminal. But I'm like, what's stopping the cop from just holding my phone up to my face?
Yeah,
and then like going through everything, you know.
Well, have they ruled that? Have they ruled on that whether or not that's an unconstitutional search yet? I know there was discussion on that. There was legal discussion on whether or not that would be require a search warrant to do. Because I'm trying to remember now what happened with passwords. I think they have to get a search warrant to get you to enter your password. They can't require you. You're not required to do so.
But what if it's not entering your password? What if it's just holding something up to your face and being a shady cop?
Right. I think that's inadmissible. I think that is considered, you'd have to have a search warrant to do that.
Man, I would hope so.
I would hope so too.
So I got to confess, I got bored one day and I found like a box of USB sticks.
Uh-huh.
And I encrypted everyone. Nothing's on them. But if like I ever get raided by the feds, they're just gonna find all this box of useless. It's like my hidden treasure of illegal data.
They'll spend hours.
And they're gonna spend hours cracking every USB stick. And I think there's just a text file on every one of them that says, "Nope, not here. Nope." Keep trying.
Yeah. So why is it you're so worried about being arrested?
I'm not. Sometimes I get bored. I get bored a lot.
I'm wondering if we're going to get raided here.
Probably.
They're going to be triangulating the signal. They're
Y'all
coming
turned your
for you.
GPS off, right?
I didn't know I was interviewing Snowden.
No. Oh, that guy.
What do you think of him?
I got to be careful here. I think what he did was treason. Let's be honest. I think that he is portrayed to be a lot smarter than he is. And he does have a lot of good points, especially when it comes to cell phones and people harvesting your data. But I don't think technically he's on par. I don't think much of him.
Okay. And what do you think of they just came out like a week ago. The government came out and said that what they were doing was illegal. What the government was doing, that he exposed, that was illegal. Do you think the government should be registering all the phone calls? To be clear, they're not listening to what's being said, from what I understand.
Right.
They're keeping track of who's calling who,
who's
and
calling
from where
who at one time, and what can be concluded by an analyst based on those call records. Now, I'm of the opinion that I don't care. Mm-hmm. The government can have what they want. I'm just, thank God I live in America. You know, I think it's no different than a cop on the side of the road, like speed trap. Like, if he had a camera attached to his car, he would know what car was on that road at what time in that spot. What's stopping me from doing that? I could do that. I could sit out on my front porch and write the license plate number of every car that passes me. Who would care? You know, somebody would care. Somebody in the neighborhood would be like, why is this weirdo doing that?
Well, yeah, there's somebody, you're invading my privacy.
You're on a public road. Mm-hmm. And let's not forget that the internet is public, and cell phone towers and traffic, that's like a gray area. You know, I don't think that it's as big a deal as people are making it. I mean, who cares if the government knows I texted you when we got here? Mm-hmm. I don't care. And what does that tell the government? It tells them where I am, you know. But I think the big argument here is power and what they could do with that information. So if you want to explore that, then think about the government's power as a whole, and think about like what Seattle did with that zone that they created.
The Chaz and the Chop.
Whatever.
They need BLM and Antifa are terrible at acronyms. They really are. I thought leftists were the creative types, and they come up with Chop.
They're the higher educated. Yeah, they're the smart ones and the progressive ones.
They should have got their creative friends to help them with that acronym.
Yeah. So if you think about Chaz and you think about the United States military, how long do you think it would have taken us to take care of that? Like almost sub-second.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah.
So if you think about that and just the power the American military has, and then think about intelligence agencies, they're equal. They have the same power. And it's like just because we can destroy things or abuse things doesn't mean that we're doing it as you know, a group of Marines or as a group of analysts or whatever at an intelligence agency. We've got better things to do, and I think social media ties into this, making the argument bigger and way worse than it needs to be because everybody wants to matter. Oh, they have my cell phone records. Nobody cares about you. You're not a criminal.
But they're not even using that for crime purposes, are they?
I don't think anyone's been like charged or anything based on like some collection of
like for civil crimes, for
crimes.
domestic crime.
Right.
It's all terrorism.
Right. And
related.
I mean, I can say one of the things I had to read was an executive order from Obama. I can't remember. I read it like 50 times while I was there. If a communication starts in America or has to do with an American and is intercepted, it has to be deleted. If it starts with an American on certain soil and crosses the American boundary, if the cell phone call travels towers and everything, yada yada yada, and hits America, like it's null and void, like they delete it. So that's an executive order. That's public. I don't think I just committed treason or anything by telling you that. So, so if it was collected, then it's deleted. If it happened, probably by accident, then it's deleted. So, this bulk collection thing, like, of records, I don't know how that worked. I'd never really looked into what Snowden actually leaked. All I know is, like, it was like decommissioned. Whatever he leaked was decommissioned. So it's like, who cares? It's gone. Maybe his leak didn't need to happen. Like, maybe someone already realized. Maybe it was a proof of concept. I don't know what it was.
Right.
You know? So I don't have a lot of... I'm not a fan of Snowden.
Okay. Well, I've just heard him recently on a podcast, and I've read. Of course, I saw the movie, but I don't put a lot of stock in the movie. I'm not sure how accurate that stuff is, but I you hear a lot. I read and hear a lot of discussion back and forth between those that think he was a hero, did great things, and stood up for civil liberty, and then those who thinks he's a traitor and should be tried for treason. And it's like, I'm out. I'm still out on that. I don't know. I'm not sure what to think.
I mean, for me, it's simple. He took classified data and he made it public. Mm-hmm. That's treason. Espionage act. End of story. I don't care what the content of that was. He's a criminal.
Right. And then what if let's make it abstract and say, what if should it still be considered that way if someone exposes something that's truly immoral or horrendous?
So, like, if the government was doing something really, really bad.
Let's say they were doing, Mengele stuff and from Nazi Germany, where they're,
right,
terrible stuff, like, terrible experiments on people and actual, dissecting live human beings like Mengele was doing, and you know about it and you expose it. Do you still have the same view of the actual exposing of this because it's classified?
Do I?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, to me, there's like a bunch of people involved in that. So there's the opportunity for a bunch of people to say, hey, we're not going to do this anymore. Like, or even go on strike. But for someone to be a whistleblower and I mean, compromise national security, that's treason. End of story.
Interesting.
That's just how I think.
Yeah. Very interesting. I have to think about that for a while. I have been thinking about it. I'm not sure because I'm naturally conservative, I guess would be the right term in that context. And so, I tend towards law and order. I tend towards granting the government power to do things that needs to be done. I'm not an anarchist. I'm more to the law and order side. At the same time, I've lived in places where the government does bad things, very bad things, and we're not. And so, I know where things can go when there's no way to hold them in check.
Yeah, maybe it's me drowning in white privilege because, like,
I thought you were gonna bring your he said he was gonna bring his life vest.
Oh.
No, maybe it's maybe it's me drowning in white privilege, but I have that like I'll just go up the road mentality. So if I were ever in a position where the government asked me, hey, we're gonna start this experiment, I need you to kill that baby, I'd just be like, today's my last day. It was nice working with you. I wish you all the best. I'm gonna go up the road. So, but yeah, I wouldn't expose that. Just because I'm bound, like I'm sworn in, you know, like I have lifetime obligations.
Well, the discussion a lot of times on that is, you know, like what is there a difference between something being illegal and something being immoral?
Right.
And I think there is. I think that's I think most everyone accepts that something being legal doesn't make it moral, and something being illegal doesn't make it immoral. And that as moral agents, we are bound to do what's in our conscience. It doesn't mean that there aren't legal consequences to them. So like in Nazi Germany, people like Bonhoeffer did a lot of illegal things. It was against German law to do what the things they did. The hiding place. I don't know if you ever saw the movie or read the book, The Hiding Place. So, I mean, what they did was illegal. It wasn't, you know, it wasn't just frowned upon. It was illegal. That was actually an illegal act. It was actually an act of treason. That what they did. They were committing treason, and yet I think most people would say that what they did was moral, and they suffered the consequences for it legally.
So do you think what Snowden did was moral?
I don't know about him specifically.
I don't.
That's that specific case. I don't know enough about to make that assessment.
I don't either, and I think it's a big unknown. I'm not sure he was saving lives, you know. Whereas the people you mentioned were saving lives.
Correct.
So, I might grab the baby on my way out of the government scenario I mentioned, but
there's definitely not a moral equivalency, and I'm not trying to make that between Snowden and what's their name from the hiding place? Betsy and what's the one Betsy's the one who died in the camp. What was her sister's name? The one that was living. I think she's already dead, but she lived. She survived it. Can't pull it up. The hiding place.
Yeah. Got
all this set up, and then you just let me sit here and flounder. Anyways, yeah. No, there's no. I would never. I do not think there's a moral equivalency between. Like with him, I think that it should be a trial.
Yeah.
And hey, that should be determined.
How do you add a new browser?
A browser tab? Hey, Josh, can you now that we got you here, we're having some trouble with our email.
It was nice. It was nice doing this. I'd like to thank our sponsors.
I actually don't like this.
What are you doing?
No, that's not it.
What are you doing? It's the plus sign up there.
I don't see it.
Right next to it. Yeah, right there.
I was looking for
there you go.
Yeah, look. You're not very good at this. There you go. Got to be able to know how to type. Anyways, yeah, I think it needs to be a trial. I think it needs to be tried, and if you know in the trial it comes out that he exposed illegal activity, well then you know a jury or whatever can make that determination. That's what I think it ought to be. The problem that I hear some people talking. Corey, there you go. Thank you, Corey Ten Boom. Yeah, she's the one that lived. Betsy died in the camp. She was sick and weak when they got her, and she didn't last. She wasn't able to survive. The problem that some people have talking about trial is the way those trials are conducted, which is basically you're not allowed to present any exculpatory evidence.
Right.
You can't make a defense.
Yeah.
The prosecution says they violated the law, and you can't even say this is why I did it. You can't you can't even offer motive because that's all classified.
Right.
And so it's not much of a trial, really.
Yeah, a lot of stuff was classified as top secret or above top secret.
Yes.
So it's just like who's gonna run that? A bunch of people who control that information, and it's just it'd be a bad trial.
Yeah, I don't know that there's any real solution to it, and I don't necessarily like the way it is now, where he's sitting over in Russia and broadcasting, and you know, I'm not sure I'm a big fan of. I'm not a fan of him. I'll say that.
Yeah.
I'm not a fan of Snowden. I don't think he's a hero or wonderful. I don't know what I would do in the situation where I thought the government was doing illegal activity.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think about it differently. I think, like, I guess because I have kids and stuff, I'm just trying to fly under that radar. You know, like, I don't want to know. I just want to do my job and get paid. Like,
yeah.
So I think him at his age and what he was doing, he felt passionate enough about something. But I also have the inside story of what actually happened
right.
that I can't disclose. But God, I wish I could.
Right.
You know.
Which in that what you know about that informs your view of this whole situation.
Right. Right. The fact that I got the real the other side of the story.
The other side. Correct.
Yeah. So and I guess it's the same way with a lot of things.
But that's a problem the government has, right? They can't release the other side.
Yeah. Yeah. They.
Or you're with them, or you're like him. You're in the same boat then.
Right. I all I can say is there are reasons I feel the way I feel about Edward Snowden. There are reasons I feel the way I feel about Hillary Clinton, and those reasons are classified.
Yeah. I was going to ask you about. Oh shoot! I just forgot. I was going to ask you about that. Oh well. There's something came to my mind when you were saying that. I can't remember what I was going to say to you about that. Anyway, yeah, I just saw that him on a recent podcast. I don't know if you.
Joe Rogan.
Yeah, he was on with Rogan.
Yeah, I think I watched the first like 20 minutes of it.
The second one or the first one? Because he's done two now.
Whatever came out this week.
Okay, the second one.
Yeah.
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 I think it's very interesting. I've been in nothing like that, obviously, but I've dealt with people as a pastor long enough to know that there are two sides to every story, and more sides. There are a lot of sides to every story.
Right.
And every side you listen to sounds reasonable. I've very seldomly heard anyone give their side where you're like, well, that's not reasonable. And no matter who I talk to, what side I listen to, is like every side's reasonable. Every side has a point. So I like that. I know it's really off topic, but in kind of corny. I like that Cobra Kai. Have you seen Cobra Kai show? I love that show.
It's too corny for me.
No, it is.
I can't get past that.
But see, I like that about it. Do you know how amazing it is that they resisted the fear and temptation to not do karate and make it MMA or something that's hip? Because karate's not hip. That's like. And they don't even try to make it hip. I love that about that. They like embrace it full on.
Right.
It is ballet karate. That's what it is. And it's just old 80s style fighting. They don't try to make it anything other than that. And I like that about that. They embrace the corniness completely. And but what I like about the show is how nuanced they make it, where you're like, oh, I hate that guy. And then they have his story and you're like, well, he has a point.
Yeah.
There's a reason why he did that.
Yeah, before that show existed, there was like a little 8-minute clip on YouTube about some guy making the case that Daniel was the villain.
Really?
In Karate Kid.
Is that what triggered them making the show, you think? Or was it just coincidence?
Maybe.
Okay.
It might have had a lot to do with the writing style and everything. Because it's just like Johnny, he was just like some dude at a high school, like living the dream, big man on campus. And then this other guy shows up and it went through the actual movie of like what incident happened where, and it made a really strong case for Daniel LaRusso, right? LaRusso?
Yeah, Daniel LaRusso being the villain.
Being the villain. It was great, and I was like Team Johnny from then on out.
Team Johnny. For those that don't know, Netflix bought it.
Yeah.
Netflix bought it, and they're making a third season now. But if you don't know, if you're from the 80s, and I also like that. They're full on 80s.
Yes.
This is the whole movie is everyone who never left the 80s. It's hilarious to me. It's just so funny.
I thought Challenger, like, so good.
Yeah.
So 80s.
Yeah, and the whole movie is all 80s. And there's people who are like living in the 2010s and they're acting like they never left the 80s. Yeah. It's very, very funny. That to me is the fun. That's what the humor comes from. And I love the Johnny's humor on computers.
Yes.
Hash brown that. Put a hash brown on it, and then send it to the internet. Oh, that was hilarious. I love that show.
I don't like it though.
You said you liked it.
I like the first few, where then it gets old.
But
The
you're not
first
from
few
the 80s.
episodes, it's funny how they tie back to the first movie.
Well, see, but the problem is you're thinking about how it's
tied.
tied back to the movie. If you live through
Yeah.
the 80s, you'll see they're really tying it back to the 80s.
Yes, I don't know.
And so, to me, it's like, the music and everything. It's
Yeah.
like, it just takes me back to when I was a, teenager, basically.
It's so good.
Yeah.
My dad recently was recovering from some surgery, and he started this thing where he wanted to find like the lowest rated movies on Netflix. And they were all like Dolph Lundgren.
Aren't they all lowest rated movies? I didn't know Netflix
Yeah.
had high rated movies.
I'm sorry, Amazon Prime.
Oh, okay.
It was Amazon Prime, whatever, But he was watching like all these old 80s movies and even 2000s movies with the old 80s stars like Dolph Lundgren and Sylvester Stallone and
What was the kicker guy? The guy that would kick all the time?
Van Damme?
Van Damme. There you go.
Van Damme, yeah. So he was supposed to get a show on Amazon. They did this thing where they were trying to reboot or have like a contest of which one got a show, and there were 3 shows, and one was like The Tick, and one was Van Damme, who he was
Johnson. His Johnson is John Van Johnson or something like that.
I think that's the one. Yeah, I don't know
Yeah.
if it got.
That's a
picked
great
up or
show.
not. It got picked up.
I don't know. I saw like 2 or 3 or 4 episodes of it,
Okay, cool.
and he's just like completely trashing himself,
Yeah,
like completely making fun of himself.
yeah. I could get behind that.
Yeah.
That'd be a good show to watch.
Very self-deprecating. It was a good move on his part. I
Yeah.
thought, career-wise, in my opinion.
That's good.
Yeah, I liked that one. What was the other one?
I don't remember.
I don't remember. I remember the contest, and I saw that one, and I thought, oh, I like this one. This is funny because he basically plays a fictional version of himself, or
Right.
a cartoon version of himself.
Right.
Yeah, very funny.
That's funny.
You haven't seen that one?
Van Damme.
Yeah, the Van Damme one, Jean Van Johnson or something like that. I forget exactly what it's called.
When is it? 80s.
No. This is
This is now.
This is now. So he's old, but he's pretending that he's still
Yeah.
who he was in his movies.
Who was he in his movies? What did he play in his movies?
Well, super serious. He could kick 4 people and they would die, and
Like-
their grandmother would die with them, or just real
80
over the top
80s style
action.
action. One guy taking down an army with
Yeah.
kung fu's and.
You never saw a Commando and those movies where they.
Oh, I started Commando
okay.
the other day. I made it like 20 minutes in and turned it off. It was so
Yeah,
terrible.
He does a lot of karate movies.
Well,
with
yeah,
Jet
he-
Li
Yeah.
and
He was a
Yeah.
martial artist back in the 80s.
I've seen
of the
his
80s
movies
style.
with Jet Li and mostly in Jackie Chan. I think he has one with Jackie Chan.
He did a bunch of
Check
them.
out that dude's full name. Jean-Claude Camille
Francois
Francois
von Wadenberg. Oh, wow. I didn't know that's a long name.
Yeah.
Camille. No wonder he had to learn to fight.
Yeah, I know, right?
His name is Camille.
We're getting canceled because of that. That's toxic masculinity.
So talk to me about social media. Because I have been trying to figure this out for a very long time. So I don't understand the point of I get Facebook. At least how it seems to me that Facebook was meant for, which is kind of like you have a group of friends and you share things that you're all interested in, and photos or whatever. But I don't understand what Twitter's about. I don't get the point of it or what it is exactly.
Oh, man. Well, I told you I was going to fill 3 hours, so here we go. So, Facebook in the beginning, did you ever see The Social Network?
Yeah.
The movie, so it was meant for college kids and stuff. So,
Yeah.
I've been around Facebook since way back then.
Mm-hmm.
And I kill my accounts and I take a break from it, but I never miss an election year because it's the best time to show up to Facebook and just watch a bunch of people pretend to be experts.
Or during pandemics. I didn't know so many doctors. I didn't know I knew so many medical professionals.
Exactly. Medical. I was invited a few times to like this anti-mask Texas private group, Facebook group, and it was from a girl I graduated high school with. She invited me to this group, so I was like, "What is this?" And I accepted. And the first meme that popped up was like, "If you can pretend Bruce Jenner's a girl."
Oh yeah, I saw that.
And Kamala Harris is black, then you can pretend I'm wearing a mask. And I was like, leave group. I do not need to be affiliated with these people at all.
Yeah, I just saw that today. I saw that same meme today.
Sheesh. So yeah.
The argumentation on Facebook is really how should I put this? Subpar.
Yeah. So I have a relative who's a medical doctor. And she posted a meme that compared Donald Trump to Adolf Hitler. And I mean, me being me and as dry and sarcastic as I am, I love her to death. She's my relative and she's a sweet, sweet woman. But I was just like, you're an MD, right? That was just my comment. Like you went to college long enough to know that this is not a fair comparison. And this is truly dangerous because in my mind, I don't go, oh man, Donald Trump's a really bad person if he's like Hitler. It makes me go, maybe Hitler wasn't that bad.
Also, Hitler was just a buffoon.
Yeah, he was just a buffoon.
I just got all of my Trump-loving fans just clicked off right now.
It's just yeah, Hitler was just a buffoon that was a meanie on Twitter. That's all Hitler ever did.
Yeah.
And I just see
he just tweeted nasty things about the Jews. That's
right.
All
that's all he did.
Yeah.
And it was just that's like the example that stuck with me. I'm like, okay, if everybody who disagrees with you on any of your million woke opinions on whatever is literally Hitler, then what you're doing is you're making Hitler seem not that bad.
Correct.
It is just how I view that.
Well, that is true. I mean, I look at the world not only through social media but through the news and everything, and I don't think that the world knows what evil is anymore.
No.
Because they're calling things on both sides. Mm-hmm. I mean, I listen to conservatives, and they're talking about how so-and-so is Satan, right? Because of whatever, the decision or policies that they don't agree with.
Yeah.
And they may be policies that I strongly disagree with, that I think that are immoral. But there's a huge difference between human immorality and Satan.
Right.
There's a broad chasm between those things.
Exactly.
And to throw that around as lightly and loosely, especially Christians that I know are Christians and doing it, I think is like you say, is it steals away from what real evil is.
Yeah. And it's dangerous. It's dangerous if everything is so binary and it's either we agree with it and we love it, or it is the actual worst thing that could ever exist ever. And it's like, no, there's an in-between here. Mm-hmm. And you're taking everything and you're making it way too serious. Like, I did that post a few weeks ago when you chimed in on it. It was like, when in your life has whoever was president had a direct effect in your life, or something along those lines. And a lot of people said a lot of bad things about Obama's healthcare policy and how it made their rates go up. And then one friend who I've known for like 20 years said that she could finally get healthcare when Obama passed that. And then I responded to her with like, I've known you for 20 years and you're like a competitive gymnast. Like, did this allow you to get treatment or medicine? Like, I don't want to get too personal here, but like, did you need it or did you buy it because you're just such a diehard Obama fan?
You're right.
And she never answered.
Oh.
and then I had a lot of people hit me up on the side that said, I don't like my stuff to be public, but yeah, I was affected by Obamacare. This had a negative effect on me. I had to pay a lot of money.
Well, the Humana left Texas,
right?
And we just got canceled.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we had grandfathered policies, which of course went up a lot. Our premiums went way up, but we were grandfathered in. We had what I carried was a $10,000 deductible, and then they pay 100% after that.
Right.
And so it was major medical. I cover all the doctor visits, and which is how I think insurance ought to be. I think the whole insurance system is just
It's broken.
it's just completely broken, and it's because they're trying to make insurance something insurance is not. And pre-existing conditions, I think as a country, we need to figure out what to do about pre-existing conditions. And I'm not sure how to do that. That's a really tough nut to crack, but it's not insurance. It can't be rolled into insurance. It can't be, we're going to insure pre-existing. That's stupid. That's not insurance.
Right.
That's like insuring a car that's already wrecked. Okay, people have a car, it's already wrecked. They're very poor. They need a car to get to work. Okay, as a society, maybe we need to do something about that. But we can't call it insurance because then it ruins insurance for everybody.
I agree.
And so,
And didn't you say something about farms? Your
Yeah.
farms being affected by...
Yeah, when Jimmy Carter put the grain embargo on. So the Soviet Union invades Afghanistan, and he put a grain embargo on Russia, which is where we were selling, where the U.S. sold a lot of their grain at that time. The grain was sold to Russia, and so because they were starving. Right? They couldn't. I mean, they have the most fertile land in the world, basically, and socialism made them all starve because their brilliant idea of socialism was let's go kill all the farmers.
Funny how that works.
Yeah, interesting. And then all of a sudden they're all starving to death, and no one ever put those two together. Anyway, so we were selling. The U.S. was selling a lot of their grain to Russia, which brought the price up. So, capitalism, supply and demand. Russia wants all this grain, huge need for it up there. They're willing to pay a lot more for it because it costs them even more to grow their own because of their policies. And so, there was just everyone had planted with that price point. That was their price point that they were looking at. Well, he puts the embargo on. We can't eat all our grain. The U.S. pays people not to farm.
Right.
I know people think that's not true. It is true.
Right.
It's absolutely true. It pays people not to farm because they have policies in place trying to keep the prices of stuff up, which is one of the. This is the crazy thing. The politicians talk. I know we're going all over the place here, but the politicians talk out of both sides of their mouth on these issues. I don't care what party we're talking about. They are talking out of both sides of their mouth on these type of things. They're saying we want to make life more affordable for the everyday person. We want to bring prices down, but they really don't, because if you bring prices down, the people who produce the products, their income goes down. So they tell them we want to bring prices up. So they tell you, you're buying bread. We want bread to cost less. You're farming wheat. We want you to sell your wheat for more money. Well, you can't do both. Either you're going to pay more for the bread or you're going to earn less for the wheat. But you can't have both things. Well, Americans think they can have both. And this is why we're so screwed up in our politics, because people have no concept of economics whatsoever.
Politicians don't. Nobody
does. Because the average person hears this and thinks this is wonderful. Give you an example. Going back to social media. You got the meme. Comes out and says, I think pediatricians should make as much as plastic surgeons. And then everyone likes it. Oh, yes. Oh, that's so, yes. Pediatricians should make as much. Babies are worth more than boob jobs. Okay. Let's put aside the fact that plastic surgeons don't just do that, don't just do elective surgery.
Right.
There's a lot of very important work done by plastic surgeons. Burns and a lot of stuff, right? But let's just say that's all they did. So you want to pay, when you take your baby into the pediatrician, you want to pay what a blonde bimbo from Houston is going to pay a plastic surgeon.
Why she
those prices?
Can't she be from Dallas?
You do know they're the center, right? That is the mecca, the mecca for implants. I know some people already canceled me because I said boob jobs.
Yeah, what other words can't we say? I need a list.
Yeah, I need a list. We're going for broke on cancellation here.
I'm not gonna.
Is there anyone left?
We got people left.
We got people left. We're not trying hard enough, Josh.
I'll fix it here in a minute.
No, I mean, do you want to pay the price plastic surgeon prices for pediatrics.
No, absolutely not.
Well, then how are they going to make what plastic surgeons make? How can a pediatrician make the same amount as a plastic surgeon if the parents don't want to pay what the patients of the plastic surgeon want to pay?
Right. It's just two totally different things.
Right. It's like you can't. It's just the stupidest sentiment in the world, and it comes because nobody has an understanding. It's not being taught. Nobody is reading about it. They're not reading. You read Thomas Sowell, right? Go read Basic Economics by Thomas Sowell and get an idea of how these things work. And then you'll realize you can't have unicorns and rainbows at the same time.
It's kinda like
you have to
that,
choose one or the other.
There was this thing on social media about the all these milk farmers who had all this milk that they were just throwing away.
Yes, yeah,
And
they were
everybody
dumping
was
the
like,
milk.
We should all just go buy it. They're talking about
And potatoes, too.
potatoes. You're talking about, an 18-wheeler full.
They're
of
like,
milk.
why are they dumping the milk? They could just package it. Like,
These are like these redneck farmers, out there.
well, these are farmers that are selling milk in bulk. They're not set up for packaging.
Right.
And it's straight out of the
They're
cow,
they're
right? This
yeah
isn't-
they're just selling raw milk
Right.
that you'd come up in one of those huge stainless steel 18-wheeler canister things and fill it up, and you go and do something with it.
Right.
They're like, why don't they go to the farmer's market?
I mean,
they could just get a hose at one of those firemen.
and what
hoses.
people don't realize is they're like, well, why are they throwing it away? Well, what are you going to do with it? Milk has a very limited lifetime.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, very, very limited, right? And you have to keep milking those cows. My families are dairy farmers in Michigan. You have to milk those cows, or they'll die.
Right.
Right? They keep producing the milk, and if you don't milk them, that's why that's a terrible job. You can never go on vacation, because now they're getting like robots to do these things, and it's getting a lot better for farmers. Or when it's real expensive, but they finally get their life back. But my uncle, he had to personally milk the cows, many of them, because those cows would not allow themselves to be milked by anyone else. They know who's milking them.
Interesting.
I know. And so there were a lot of cows that if his employees milked, wouldn't get enough milk out, and the cow would get sick.
Oh, wow.
So he had to actually personally milk those cows twice a day. I think it's 2 times a day. My dad will correct me if he's watching. But I think it's twice a day that you have to milk those cows. And you have to. Whether you throw the milk away or not, you can't just tell the cow, store it and we're going to wait this
Right.
out. It doesn't work that way.
Hang back another day. I'm going to go.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go fishing.
These are the realities that people don't understand, both of economics and how the real world works. They just have no clue.
Right.
No clue at all.
And I think, since I've been around since before social media, and into technology. So I was there like whenever it was all, IRC chats.
Yeah, so was I.
Old school stuff.
Were you on CompuServe?
No. I was not. But I was on Usenet and all the other Google group. What eventually became Google Groups, and then Facebook happened. And Facebook, I think it was intended to be just like people hanging out and posting things that they care about, and it has transformed into this monster
Yeah.
where it has given everybody the realization that we have a voice. But it's also given them the delusion that it matters, that what they say matters.
That's true.
And I had this conversation. It's funny because I have an old friend who would he was the best at going off on rants. Like if you think of any comedian that was really good at ranting, like a Dennis Miller,
Oh, yeah.
or I can't remember the other guy's name. Oh, it'll come to me. Anyway, any comedian that's good at ranting, almost angrily ranting.
Right.
Carlin
Carlin was good at that.
Carlin was good at that. I have a friend that's very good at that. And he was complaining to me, ironically, about Facebook. And I was like, you know what I like to do, Taylor? I like to think before I post something. And I think about, what if I were to send this directly to Taylor? How would he roast me? Like if I took a picture of this hamburger I'm about to eat and sent it to Taylor, he would go off on like a 13-page text about how he doesn't give a crap about that hamburger.
Yeah.
Like nobody cares about your hamburger, you fat loser. I hope you choke on it. It would just be like this hilarious response and that's how I look at social media. Like I'm scrolling through, like, I don't care about your hamburger, I don't care. And that transitioned into like it's all politics and whatever's happening in the world. Like, here's how I can make this about me. You know, a tragedy happens. How can I make this about me? You know, George Floyd happened. How can I make this about me? I'm going to turn my profile picture black. And it's like, you're not doing anything at all. You're just...
You're injecting yourself into the situation.
Right. At the most, you're telling somebody that you feel poorly or you feel bad about something that happened. But nothing's going to be solved by changing Facebook profile pictures. Nothing has ever been solved by changing Facebook profile pictures. And then you asked about Twitter. I think Twitter was originally designed for famous people. You know, like actors and musicians. Check out my new album, check out my new TV show, check out my new...
As a way for them to get their message out.
Right.
Promote what they're doing.
I think that... I think I have a Twitter. Like, I've had like 30 Facebook accounts, but I think I've had like one Twitter account, and I never could get into it. But then a lot of companies bought into it, and it's like, hey, check out our new software we're releasing. So it was kind of a way to keep up with tech a little bit. It's just something I never, ever got into.
It seems to me to publish on Twitter, you have to acquire a following. If not, no one sees anything you write.
Exactly.
It's not like Facebook where you have a group of friends and you all see each other's posts.
Right. So it's more like you got to create a brand.
Yes.
Like, I don't care about my brand. You know, you can say what you want about me on Facebook all day long. I'm not gonna care. Put an old picture of me up, tag me in it. It means nothing to me. So and that's another thing that ties into Facebook is people caring about their brand so much. And if you tag a picture where they don't look a certain way or they don't look good enough, they'll get mad at you.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So I don't do that. You know, a lot of my posts they get taken down in 24 hours. Just because I like to screw with Facebook's back end, but that's a whole nother story. So yeah, I've heard stories about like people were genuinely upset that somebody tagged a picture of them and they looked fat or they had a stupid look on their face.
Tell them, go complain to your refrigerator. Don't complain to me.
Yeah. And I'm like, is this real life? Is this conversation happening? Like, who cares about your brand? The answer is nobody. Nobody cares. So yeah, with Twitter, you have to gain this following. And I mean, I dig it. It's cool if you're into things, 'cause like I don't know, whatever you're into, some musician or whatever. But then it became a thing where they're chiming in on all kinds of things. I don't care what Kanye West has to say about 9/11. I don't care about what, you know, pick a Kardashian has to say about anything going on in the news. I just don't care. Like, tell me when your new stuff is coming out. Tell me when the new features for Docker or Kubernetes are coming out. Tell me those things. But it became a giant mess. And then Donald Trump joined. So, I mean, like, originally you think actors, musicians, so that's Hollywood's leftists, elitists, and then Donald Trump comes. and I'm of the opinion that the president of the United States needs to not be on Twitter.
But would he be president without Twitter?
No, hard no on that. He saw what Obama did. Obama won because of Twitter. You know, he was the first to really embrace technology. Mm-hmm. You know, Bush didn't have the opportunity. When Bush was running, the tech just wasn't there. Obama's marketing, Obama's branding is just top notch, and he was so well spoken. And I don't have a lot of bad things to say about Obama. I mean, yeah, he's a Democrat, but I don't think he did anything terrible. Nothing that affected me directly.
Well, there went the other viewers.
Yeah. Sorry, guys.
They just dropped off like flies.
I mean, sorry I don't hate Obama.
Oh, you just got canceled.
Hashtag cancel coffee. I should probably hide this Mountain Dew. Is Mountain Dew a conservative company? So, Obama did a wonderful job, or Obama's team did a wonderful job marketing him on Twitter and everything.
Oh, no doubt.
And getting that
his marketing was top notch.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sure.
And
I mean, he beat the Clinton machine.
Yeah.
And beat him in I think, in a much more formidable time than the second run. Right. I thought Hillary was much more formidable as a candidate the first time when she ran against Obama in the primary than she was when she actually won the primary. Because that was kind of like almost consolation. They basically didn't let anybody run against her to give her her due, so to speak. But I thought she was far more formidable the first time.
I think that's what they're doing with Biden. Like, I think, like, he just won the nomination.
What they're doing with Biden.
Because it was his turn. Like, it's your turn. Like, because they're so...
Yeah, see, Dick Morris had an interesting take on that. Actually, back when, quite a while ago, how the parties have flipped on that paradigm. So the Republicans always used to have that whose turn it is. I mean, going up, you'd find, it was this person's turn, and then Nixon got his turn, and then it came up, and everyone was getting basically, it was when your turn was, and everyone acknowledged you're the guy, we're behind you. And now the Democrats are the ones that are doing that. They were always the barn burners. They would come in, Kennedy comes out of nowhere, Obama comes out of nowhere. That was there, and now it's like, seems that they're going to that system where it's all these old people, and when it's their turn, they run.
Because every liberal I know, like both of them, no, I'm joking. They're hardcore Bernie people, and I'm like, I could get behind Bernie on a lot of things, but yeah, he was a nut job. He was a socialist nut job. But not everything he said was bad.
What did you like about what he said?
I like his legalization of marijuana. I think that needs to happen, hands down.
You do?
Oh, yeah.
Why is that? Talk to me about that, because that's interesting.
Just so potheads will never have anything to talk about ever again.
How far do you think they ought to go to legalizing? I mean, just marijuana, or should we be legalizing all illicit substances?
I think definitely marijuana, but I think the biggest threat there is with the alcohol and tobacco companies. Like, they've brought America so much revenue that, let's be honest, they're the ones holding everything up. Those are those backdoor
They don't want to
meetings.
compete with marijuana, you think?
Yeah, they don't want to compete with marijuana. Whereas they already have the brand behind them, they should be embracing it. They should be starting their farms right now.
Marlboro Highs?
Yeah. But I also think the major thing holding it up is testing. And, in a lot of states where it is legal, the employer still says, you can't work here if you smoke marijuana. We can drug test you. We have the right to refuse you employment.
Yeah.
So I'm all about that. But I think the major thing that needs to happen is there has to be a test where if I get pulled over and I'm just baked out of my mind, that I could, like, they could finger prick me or something, some way to tell how stoned I am. Like, that needs to exist before it gets legalized across the board, because I think it is a lot safer than alcohol. And I think I've never seen a violent pothead. I've seen a lot of violent drunks,
There's actually studies that show that there is a lot of violence associated with marijuana.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I know a lot of people don't care for her, but she's generally very well documented, and so I read her a lot, is Ann Coulter. And she has published quite a few articles citing both past and current scientific studies and research done on that matter.
Okay.
And there is a tremendous amount of violence, and where marijuana is legalized, violence rates go up precipitously.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And I want to know if that has to do with, like, gateway drugs and stuff.
No, it's marijuana itself.
Okay.
According to what she's published. So, I'm still researching it. I'm not making the claim. I'm just saying that there is a the stereotypical view of the mellow stoner is not held by everybody. There's some research to indicate that is not a true stereotype.
And I know the homeless population for every state that is fully decriminalized has just skyrocketed.
Yes.
So
There's a lot of problems with it. What were you going to say?
I feel like once it's made legal, it'll be like everything else, and where employers won't be able to ask if you smoke weed, and they won't be able to drug test for that. It'll be like,
Well, no, because they can test you for alcohol on the
Can
job.
they? Yeah.
Yes, they can.
Yeah.
And see, that's what people don't realize. Like you were saying, if let's say Texas makes it legal, and let's say the federal government makes it legal, fine. Let's say it's legal everywhere. If you get on an accident at work, and you're stoned, you will not, or you have it in your system, you will not get workers' comp.
right.
And that is huge. People don't. I work in construction. It's really big there, right? Because it's actually high risk.
Yeah.
Relatively high risk compared to, like, say, working in an office job. And I end up getting people that are, do drugs. Work for me, work for other people, and they think, well, if I'm performing at work, it's none of your business. And I'm like, you don't understand. You can get hurt at work and never be able to work again. And I carry workers' comp for that exact reason, because I don't want I can't afford to provide for you my whole life, support you for the rest of your life. So I carry workers' comp insurance, even though Texas doesn't mandate it, because I'm a firm believer in insurance. I like insurance, especially real insurance, and workers' comp is. And so if you get hurt on the job and can never work again, workers' comp will support you for the rest of your life. But if you have THC in your system, you lose it.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So that would have to be adjusted to if that test existed and they could
to where
tell,
that you actually were stoned that time,
right,
at that moment.
They could tell when you last.
Yeah, that's
smoked.
hard to do. They'd have
Right.
to. Maybe they could.
So,
But yeah, that's the complication though of legalizing it, is that that's kind of thing I don't see going away, because that's an insurance thing.
oh yeah,
That's not a law thing. That is an insurance thing. Just like drinking is an insurance issue now. It's not a legal issue.
yeah. I have family that work at the refineries in Corpus Christi, and they have had like breathalyzers at the gate in the morning. Some guys like would be walking up with their lunch pail, see that, and just turn right back around.
Yeah.
Yeah, we went a little too hard last night. I don't think I'm going to be coming into work today.
That brings up the whole thing on dealing with insurance and in the industry I'm in, and the media on it. So many people buy into the Hollywood version of how companies run, and companies are always the villain in the movie.
Right.
You watch any movie, any show, the villain is the large corporation. They don't care about anyone. They're trampling over everyone. They're trying to suck money out of everyone as much as they possibly can. And it's like, it doesn't jive with reality.
Yeah.
You don't go to Walmart saying, who here is trying to rip me off on these prices? You go to Walmart because you're like, man, they keep lowering the prices.
Yeah.
There's no company in the world.
I watched an Amazon documentary. And during their boardrooms, they would keep a seat open. And that seat represents the customer. I don't know, kind of, but basically, their whole motto is their customers are God. And they work for the customer only.
Yeah.
And so to think that these big corporations are
that they're stroking a cat.
Yeah. How do we stick it to
How much are we going to charge for this pen? $1 million.
Yeah.
But there's it's so bonkers. Yeah. But it's the same way in construction. Everyone has this idea that the employers in construction want the employees to do unsafe things, that they want them to go out and risk their lives and do unsafe things just to get the job done. I've been in construction here in Texas for over 10 years. I've never worked for a single person that wanted that. Not one time.
Yeah.
It's always the opposite. When you see some guy, and I've seen some crazy stuff. I've seen people cantilever a ladder out over a stairwell with one guy holding the legs of the ladder and the other guy walking out on top of it like seesawed, and he's holding it, and it's like 3 floors down, and he's there so he can, I don't know, paint something or do something stupid because he didn't want to go get a extension for his roller.
Yeah.
The boss did not say to do that.
Right.
But they think, well, they made him do that. No. It is they pay more money to their safety crew that walk around making sure you're not doing stupid stuff like that than they do to their superintendents walking around making sure the job's getting done.
Yeah, my cousin's one of those safety guys. It's like the best job in the world. You just walk around and be like, put your safety glasses on.
It's the most horrible job in the world. I would hate to do that job.
Yeah,
because I do it. I'm an employer.
Yeah.
And so if somebody gets hurt on my crew because they weren't wearing their glasses when they're hammer drilling glass tile, right? And they get glass in their eye and lose their eye, well, that's going to skyrocket my insurance rates. And so I'm constantly, put your safety glasses on, wear your hard hat, put gloves on if you're going to handle that stuff. Just constantly. Don't hold the piece on the bandsaw with your fingers.
Was that you?
Oh, dude. Yeah, both of us, really.
No. Talk about yourself.
We're trying to cut this piece of metal, and I have this bandsaw.
Little portable bandsaw.
Pliers. My cart's full. It has like 10 pliers on my car. I'm looking at them like, I should be holding it with that, not with my hand. And then as soon as it catches and shoves my finger up into the bandsaw blade, and I just hear it cutting my finger, and I can't pull it out. Finally, I pull it out. I mean, my whole finger is just ugly. And he did the same thing, too.
Like a month later. I have no feeling.
Told me, you stupid.
I have no feeling in the end of that finger. It's like dead. Because I cut in. You can see the scar. See it?
Oh, yeah.
See it?
Yeah.
Cut in all the way down to the bone.
No, I don't do blood.
It made me so mad. It was so furious when I did that. It's because I'm out of town. I got to finish the stupid job, and I got this cut down to the bone, and stupid.
Yeah, and then you spend $60 on pliers, and you don't use them.
I know.
And you buy them for that reason.
But anyways. But yeah, I mean, this is just the reality that people are not living in, and they're believing the media that's telling them an alternate version that isn't true. It's not true anywhere.
Yeah,
I mean, you don't have to be a researcher to figure this out. You can just walk out in the world and say, wait a minute, this doesn't look at all like they're portraying, and how they keep selling these movies that are just cookie cutter style, and it's all the same thing. I don't understand it. It's crazy to me. You know what's crazy to me about Facebook? And I've mentioned this before, but it just completely perplexes me. When Terry's been on Facebook forever, but she's never posted anything. She never puts a like on anything. All she does is stalk people. I don't know if you saw the little. She's a lurker. Did you see that little that meme I put of her?
She just sits back judging us all.
Yes, that's exactly right. And so, I was never on it. And then I thought, well, maybe this is a way I could use to get, to talk to people, and so I started looking at them like, oh wow, I thought it was just pictures. I wasn't interested in seeing, your kids. I'm not interested in that.
Right.
It's fine. To me, that would be, if that's all it was like everyone posted pictures of their kids, and it was like how your whole family could see it. You don't have to email every single person. That'd be great. I had no problem with it. But then I'm like, oh wow, they're actually having discussion on here. This is like a forum for discussion. This is great. So I go on and think, well, what they want to do is they want to put on, and then you come back and say, well, what about these? And you put on a real thought out argument about why that may not be true. And then they would interact with that argument. And this would be like this online forum discussion, like the old debate forums that there used to exist.
Right. No. I've been trying to do that for like a decade.
No, it doesn't work.
Have a conversation on Facebook.
It's like, you're evil. I thought you wanted to talk. You posted it.
Yeah, it's some person puts what they think, and then you write a rebuttal, and then they're like, you're literally Hitler. And I'm just like, guess I'm Hitler again today, y'all.
Yes, it was like crazy to me. I couldn't believe it. I was shocked that if I wasn't interested in hearing your rebuttal, I wouldn't put out an opinion.
Yeah.
Not on a public forum.
Right.
I mean, this isn't like I hacked into their private page or something. This is like they put it out there publicly, something either political or, in my case, I'm interested in biblical stuff. So they'll put like some statement, a biblical statement. And I'll be like, no, that's not actually how it works. So, and I'll put on the verses, and I try to give a long form answer with a lot of, and then never interact. I've never had a single person interact with the actual arguments made.
Exactly. And I think a lot of that has to do with their brand and their fear, or maybe they feel attacked. Like, because if we're going to be friends, we all have to agree on everything. Always. That's what Facebook is. Right? Do you like mushrooms?
Do I like mushrooms? I do.
I hate mushrooms.
Oh, well, get him out of here. Unfriend him.
I will not eat them. I take that back. I have an uncle, my Uncle Justin. I love everything this man cooks. If he puts mushrooms in something, I'll eat it. Like, I trust him completely. But other than that, I will not eat mushrooms. I think there was like one other instance. I went to that, what's that expensive pizza place, like off Blanco? Dough.
Oh, I've never heard of that one.
Yeah, Dough. We went there and they had mushrooms on their pizza. I was like, well, if I'm paying $100 for pizza, like, I'll take a bite of mushrooms.
And was it good?
Yeah, it was delicious. But I just
so why then do you say you don't like mushrooms if you've eaten them and liked them?
There was like 2 instances where I've eaten mushrooms and just like been impartial or whatever.
Oh, okay.
But I think it's a texture thing.
Oh, okay.
Or just dating. I never had them growing up type thing. We never eat them.
Right. I didn't used to like them when I was younger. And I don't like Portofinos. I like Portobellos. But I love Portobellos of almost any way at all. I like them.
Yeah, but
even raw.
We're still friends, right? Even though you like mushrooms?
I suppose.
Okay.
Yes.
That's how I think about everything that's on Facebook. Like, if somebody has a strong opinion about whatever, I'm just like, it's mushrooms.
Right.
I don't need to chime in.
See, I'm okay with people having opinions and not interacting with them.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm okay with, like, when I do this podcast, I don't agree with everyone I have in and talk, and they say things, and I don't think I need to correct them because I want to hear what they have to say, and I want people to hear what they have to say, and then they can decide. If it were a debate podcast, well, then I would interact, right? I would say, okay, well, I don't agree with that because of this, and I'd give my reasons, and we could interact back and forth.
See, my dad always used to tell you when we were kids, he goes, you have a right to your opinion, but you don't have a right to the facts. That's how he used to argue with us. We were like 10. Because we didn't have a color crayon or something.
I'm going to steal that.
That's not original, but yes. I forget who said that. It was a politician. I think it was a British politician who originally said that. I'd have to go back and look it up. But anyways. But like on Facebook, to me, it's like if you put out an opinion like publicly like that, I assumed that you wanted to discuss the matter. Well, then I found out that wasn't what they're wanting.
No, not at all.
They want everyone to just
rally behind them.
Yeah, to
praise them.
To praise it. They want everyone to like it. That's what they were looking for. And I just don't know. I don't get that. I really don't. I'm not trying to be holier than thou or sanctimonious about it. I don't understand that. I understand, not wanting to be contradicted, but then don't publish opinions on a worldwide forum.
They're narcissists.
I would guess so.
That's all that end of story.
Yeah, weird. Because see, like I'll put on every now and I've pretty much quit doing it because I just found it to be pointless.
But can you tell when he's not working? When he's not at work? It starts like at 10 at night and it goes all the way to like 6 in the afternoon the next day.
Post after post after post.
Yeah. To me, it's when I'm in a meeting.
That's when you're posting.
Yeah, I get thrown into a lot of meetings and I'm like, I don't need to be here. Let's open up Facebook and see whose life I can ruin. Not life, a day. Whose day I can ruin.
Well, to them, some of them it's their life. I mean,
Right.
you'd think you would like trampled over their life if you disagree or you put something on that they didn't agree with, that they don't like, that they're not a subscribe to. And I don't, it's not that I'm like angry at anybody. And like, that has to be set right. It's like, I thought you wanted to interact. And I wanted to point out that your facts are wrong here. Mm-hmm. Or your analogy isn't apt or whatever. And I find out that's not at all what that is going on in there.
Did you see that picture I put up of Biden French kissing his granddaughter?
Yes, I wanted to ask you about that. Did you really get put in Facebook jail for that?
It was immediate. It was immediate. I posted that.
Did you have it
picture.
with a caption or just the picture?
Just the picture. I put the picture up, and I think I titled it, and I said French kissing because I'm an idiot, and I wanted to jab.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
Throw a little jab at the other side, and Facebook was like as soon as it went through, I got a notification. Your post has been removed. That's our candidate. They didn't say that's our candidate, but it might as well. Like they had, I don't know, they had AI or some filter looking for that picture to be posted, so it would automatically be removed.
That's crazy. I wonder if you were to, I would love to do a test, and because you have a lot of conspiracy ideas going on about that, and I was curious if you were to post a similar one of Trump at the same moment, two people,
right,
and do the same exact caption, everything the same, just one of Trump, one of Biden, and say this, if they would both get banned.
They had a picture of Trump with Epstein. It was photoshopped, him in the car with Epstein, right?
I think so.
Yeah, well, it was actually his daughter that was in the car, and he's like going like this and kissing like on the cheek. Well, they photoshopped the daughter out and put Epstein in there. Well, that was on for, I saw that for weeks before they took it down. And then when they did, all they said was, this picture is not accurate, is what Facebook did.
Right, it's
but
manipulated.
but you can still see the picture.
Mm-hmm.
You can still see why, and then you can see the picture and what it, but they didn't just like take it down and ban it.
Yeah, I don't know. It's strange because it's amazing to me the things that don't get taken down. I mean, I think some conservatives put on some stuff that to me is beyond the pale. Mm-hmm. And misinformation, inaccurate.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, the inaccuracy that happens on Facebook, I hope no one's getting their news from that source.
You'd be shocked.
You'd be shocked.
You'd be shocked.
See, that's just what's crazy to me, or what me and my wife, we get into this discussion. Because, I'll make statements. She'll be like, well, where did you get that from? I'm like, I read it from the actual sources, right? I actually go back to the studies. I go find the data. So when I post stuff on Facebook or anywhere, or even in my sermons, and I say, give statistics or give fact points, I won't say I never get them wrong. I do. And I won't say that it's never done because I was lazy or whatever. It does happen. But I work really hard at making sure I got my information from the original source material, right? So not like an article about the study, but go back and read the study. And then say, okay, the study says this or whatever. I don't think anyone's doing that.
No.
And I say anyone. I'm talking about my little circle of acquaintances. I don't think they are.
I would say there are very few people who do that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's always like so much stuff I see from conservatives is like, it's not from Fox News. It's from like philsblog.wordpress.com. And I'm just like, oh, come on, man. Come on. This is clearly not true. I just went blank. I forgot what I was going to say. I had an example.
Well, the one, an example, like for instance, somebody put on, and I don't remember who, and if it was you, don't be offended. I'm not trying to call you out on global television. Nobody's listening to me anyway, so don't be offended. I don't remember who did it, but somebody put on, a saying that and attributed it to Hitler wrote this in Mein Kampf. And it was a conservative who put it on, and they're talking about the current riots and defund the police and this stuff. And if I remember right, it went something like, Hitler said in Mein Kampf that if we want to destabilize the state, we need to defund the police. We need to, and they mentioned, like the top things that the liberals want to do right now. Mm-hmm. It's like, was Hitler that prescient? That's what I'm thinking. I'm like, Now, I haven't personally read Mein Kampf. I probably should, but I haven't. I know some of you might think I have a copy right here. I don't. But I looked at that and went, that seems awful tailored for our current day.
Right.
So that to me is just like, if it fits too well, I doubt in 1930 they were that prescient, and it fits that well like a glove. And sure enough, you just do a quick search. You can go on to Google Books, or you can go into Gutenberg and download Mein Kampf and search, right? And no, not in there.
Oh, I'll tell you what the example was. It was since I don't know how to pronounce her name, Maxwell. Epstein.
Oh yeah,
Epstein's
Giselle or Grace.
Yeah.
What's her name? Look her up. Epstein Maxwell. See what?
Yeah.
Anyways.
Ever since she's been arrested, and it had this list of politicians who have bounced, or even entertainers who have taken hiatus and stuff like that. And I just like scrolled to the middle of the list. I clicked one, right click, search Google for this dude, and it's like, this guy was a politician here and resigned in 2017 over allegations for child whatever. And I'm just like, they're making it seem like that happened yesterday. What someone did was they found a list of everything, every politician. Yeah, that lady. I wish her well. No, I'm joking.
Ghislaine.
That was a Trump quote. I wish her well.
I wish her well. Yeah. So they had that list, and
anyway,
they just found a list of anyone.
Yeah, they just looked up any politician who's ever diddled a kid, and they made it seem like that all happened immediately after Maxwell was arrested.
Yeah, that they got her. They took her little black book and went around arresting everybody. I remember seeing that.
And that was shared by like, I'll say like about 4 mutual friends of ours in our circle. And I'm like, just one of you has to look one of these up and say, no, this is wrong.
Yeah.
So
no, I agree. And I think it's again, if it were like some private conversation, I don't fact check people. Okay, maybe I do. Maybe I do fact check people in private conversation. I just hate misinformation.
Yeah.
Right? I hate misinformation more than I hate leftism.
And I think we're all getting a lot of misinformation. And I think the media has painted like Black Lives Matter out to be these horrible people. And we're at their core, they're really great people with a really great movement behind them. And Antifa is this huge problem that needs to be on like the terror list because they're domestic terrorists. Antifa is. And I was talking to a San Antonio police officer who we both know. And I just asked him casually, like, hey, how's all this affected your day-to-day job since Floyd and all that? And he was like, honestly, man, Black Lives Matter, they've done everything right. They get permits when they need permits. They ask us to be there and shut down roads for them. Everything they're doing is right. And a lot of times they've either pointed out or forcefully brought us members of Antifa who were just there to instigate maybe a riot or something. And I'm like, why isn't that on the news? Why aren't we hearing about that? Why am I hearing about this in a one-to-one conversation? Like, this needs to be news. And it's because it doesn't fit the narrative, I think.
It doesn't fit the conservative narrative.
The news narrative as a whole.
You think the liberal news is making BLM out to be bad?
I think they're not helping.
Why would they do that when it's their cause? It seems to be they're associated with the cause. I mean, I'll put it this way: conservatives think that that's the liberal cause,
right?
So why do you think that the liberal news is not painting the picture you're talking right now?
Your guess is as good as mine, because that came direct from a San Antonio police officer.
So he didn't have a problem with BLM.
No, not at all. But every time you go into Facebook, you're BLM and Antifa are terrible, and I'm like, no, BLM has a legitimate movement behind them. And I stand with BLM 100%. What they're doing is right. There are wrongs that need to be righted. Antifa, let's shoot them.
Don't pull us, Facebook.
Maybe not kill them. Just clip them in the arm. I don't want anybody to die. But they're rioting. They're destroying buildings and statues and everything. Like, these are terrible
So
people.
you think that Antifa and BLM are two very separate entities?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, because a lot of conservatives think they're the one and the same.
No. BLM, all they want is justice, and this goes back to like Rodney King, even before Rodney King.
Mm-hmm.
Like, let's stop treating black people like dirt when we interact with them.
And do you think that's happening in America?
I hope so.
You hope so?
No. Do I think the remediation is happening?
No. Do you think that black people are being treated like dirt in human interaction in America?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, absolutely. So our company had this like Black Lives Matter, I don't know what you call it, meeting, podcast, whatever it was, presentation, where they had a lot of just people telling stories. Mm-hmm. And in addition to like someone who holds my position going into a customer office, and he said something that really stuck with me. He was like, I never know how white I have to be, how white I have to sound. I have to put on my white voice when I'm talking to a customer. And I was like, wow, I never considered that. And he also told a story about his dad buying a Corvette, and him and his brother driving it around the neighborhood, and they just got pulled over because they were two black guys in a brand new Corvette. They did nothing wrong, but they got pulled over, and then the police officer would not believe that this is my dad's car. He just bought it. He's letting me drive it around the neighborhood. I live right up the street. They went to jail. And this wasn't like 1970. This was, 4 years ago.
Right.
And not in a bad neighborhood. This was a nice neighborhood.
Right.
So, yeah, that needs to stop. And that's what I think Black Lives Matter is trying to stop.
That's interesting. So then what do you make of the claims that they're a Marxist organization?
I don't
Yeah, have you looked into that at all?
I have not looked into that.
Okay. Yeah, I know that some of the complaints against Black Lives Matters is that their claim is that they're a Marxist organization, and that at the core of what they're doing is pushing for broad implementation of Marxist policies in America, and that the leadership of BLM has more to do with that than they do with the racial issues that they're bearding.
All right. For example, what would be their ultimate goal?
So their ultimate goal of Marxism is the destruction of Western society or Western culture. So what they call the patriarchy, and what capitalism, particularly from the economical standpoint, religion from the spiritual standpoint. These are the things that Marxism is historically anti, right? So Marxists believe that Marxism is the perfection of humanity, and it is a progress beyond capitalism, religion, Western culture. And true Marxists want to implement this utopian society where those things no longer exist.
I would probably think that's a minority group.
Well, yes. Well, I'm talking about the leadership and the founding idea of it. Now, I'm not saying that that's the case. I'm saying this is the claim that's made. I was just curious if you'd looked into it.
I don't see that being...
What do you think their goal is, specifically? Like if BLM were to specifically lay out there, because I've been wanting to get someone to talk to me about them, because I don't understand what their complaint is exactly. I understand what their broad complaint is, but to me that's like me complaining that short people get the short end of the stick, if you pardon the pun. It's like, okay, specifically, what would your complaint be? And I'd be like, well, they won't let me in the NBA. Okay. But you don't play basketball very well, regardless of that. So what's your real complaint? So I've done some research and looked into Black Lives Matter on it, and I'm not sure what they are actually alleging the complaint is, and how that's going to get solved. So like the examples you give, if someone tells me, well, when a customer comes in the store, I don't know how white I have to sound. Okay, how do we solve that? And how is a march going to fix that? Is this a government? Does a government like mandate down to customers, this is how you're going to interact with black employees? No. So then what is a protest about? I mean, how you protest something like that? That'd be like me protesting me personally not liking broccoli. Mm-hmm. It's like, that's not going to, or me protesting you don't like mushrooms.
Yeah, I don't see a lot of value in protests in general. Like,
well, there is if you can show it systemic.
Yeah.
If you can show that what their complaints are actually codified in law, like the civil rights protesting, well, that's what you have to do.
Right, but as far as like right now, what they're doing,
yeah, I'm wondering what are they protesting in that would actually be tied to a legitimate protest, where you could say, by legitimate, I don't mean they don't have a right to do it. I mean that it would legitimately respond to it, that it would actually deal with that.
See, that I don't know. I don't know why they're in the streets marching and what their ultimate goal is. I would like to assume maybe police reform or some kind of system where we can do away with bad cops. You know, there has to be some way to do away with bad cops.
I agree. But the question I have then for them, and I've been trying to get someone to come on, actual BLM, come on the podcast. I can't get not one person who I know is consider themselves part of the movement that would talk to me publicly. And I'm not looking to debate. I really am, because if they have a valid complaint, the way I thought the civil rights people in the 60s had a very valid complaint, and they addressed it in a very valid way, I would be all on board with it. I'm not how would I put it, predisposed against them. Mm-hmm. I am very open to them convincing me that they have a valid complaint. Now, if we're saying that there are individuals out there who've been treated poorly because of the color of their skin, because of the tone of their voice, because of their dialect or whatever, sure, absolutely. So have I. So I'm a white kid, full of white privilege, who grew up in a brown country, who didn't speak the language. And even though I tried all my life to speak it like a native, I never could, and they could identify me on the phone immediately that I was not Mexican. The moment I would speak on the phone, they would say, "You're not from here, are you?" And I got different treatment because of that. So I know what it's like to grow up around that. Sure. Is that institutional? Was it law? Law was written that I was to be treated that way? Would marching have changed it? No. This was personal interaction. I'm not saying it's okay.
Yeah.
But marching wasn't going to change that. Now, Jim Crow was actual legal discrimination, that you could march against the system, and the system could be changed, right? So so if they have a case for that, well, I'd be all for it. I would march with them. Yeah. I'm just not sure they have that case. Have you looked into that at all?
No, not at all.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
Shucks. I was excited because I'm like, well, now someone can explain it to me, because I don't get it. I don't understand, and it's not that I disagree. I don't understand where they're coming from.
Right.
Because I haven't heard it articulated where they can say, okay, like Martin Luther King could say, look, and he didn't have to say it. Everyone knew. I mean, it was common legal knowledge. Alabama will not allow black people to ride on these seats on the bus. That is wrong. Mm-hmm. Or Mississippi or Georgia or wherever, right? That's wrong. And you could point to the law and say, we want that law changed. And then you could get me like, okay, I understand that. Okay, now we understand what we're dealing with. Now it's like, well, somebody at this UPS store was mean to me. Mm-hmm. Well, okay, I don't like people being mean to you. I'm not for meanness, but I don't know how to march against that. I don't know how that changes anything.
Yeah.
That's kind of where I'm at on them. So I'm trying to find someone who can explain to me.
You don't think a march could change? I think they're just trying to change human behavior and all.
Right.
I don't think I don't, at least I don't know. I say this, but I haven't done any real research. Just the kids I took on Facebook. They're not trying to change government in the sense. They want to change people's perspective.
Right. Okay. So I have a couple issues I find with that, or not issues, difficulties thinking about that. One is they're claiming systemic problems. Mm-hmm. It's all over. Now, maybe
maybe
this is just a result of our public school system, and they don't know what systemic means. So maybe it's just a vocabulary issue. It's a terminology problem, right?
Right.
I hear systemic, and I think what that means technically. And maybe for them that just means really, really bad.
Mm-hmm.
Like really, really. But we have systemic racism. Maybe in their mind they're saying we have really, really bad racism. Okay, that could be. I'm not a word Nazi. I'm willing for them to redefine the word, as long as we all understand how we're using the word. But when I hear systemic, and they're against systemic racism, what they're saying is we're against racism that is codified into law or into formal practices, so that the police department has a formal policy to encourage bad cops to do bad things. Not that there are bad cops, but that the police department formally, whether it be or informally, but its actual procedures are to encourage that behavior, right? I find that very hard to believe that that's actually the case.
I agree.
I find that very hard to believe. I know cops, and they would, to me, it's parallel with like construction and safety. Mm-hmm. There is no systemic safety violation in construction. There is none, zero. There is no company at all that is saying we want you to do something unsafe. Not formally, not wink, wink, nod, nod. It is no, no, no. There's safety meetings 2 or 3 times a week to tell you no, no, no matter what, no matter how fast you can get the job done, you will not do things unsafe. We'd rather not do the job than do it unsafe. There's no systemic lack of safety on the job site. This is all human behavior issues and safety things.
And I wonder about, like, culturally, growing up, I was taught how to deal with police officers. Mm-hmm. When you get pulled over, here's how you act. Here's what you do. I don't know if there's a lack of knowledge.
There is. And black commentators, both left and right. Like, for instance, on the right, you would have Larry Elder and Thomas Sowell. And on the left, you would have James McWhorter. I'm going to get his name wrong. His last name is McWhorter. If you're interested in hearing a left and right appraisal of it, not just a right. On the left, you'd have a professor from Columbia named McWhorter, who's a brilliant writer. I really like the guy. Very, very good speaker, very good teacher. Very far left, or not very far, but left, definitely left in this political spectrum. And they both say that. They say, number one problem with black youth, or black, because it's mainly black youth, young black men who have a problem with the police, right? This isn't a black problem, is their assessment. It's mine as well. Because are the black women being treated this way? Are old black men being treated this way? Are old black women being? It's not. It's young black males who are, and we're talking about. I looked up. I did the study on it. I'm gonna say 70% of these bad interactions with the police are young black men under the age. I'm gonna get the age wrong if I say it, but I'm gonna let's say 30.
Okay.
It's something like that. 30, 35. Almost all of them are that age group, young, black, unmarried men under the age of 35. That's who's having problems with the police. And both left and right black men say the problem is they are not being taught how to deal with authority figures. And a lot of this is because they don't have fathers in the home.
Right.
So it's like 80% of black young men grew up without a father. The percentage is astronomical. Back in the 70s, a senator by the name of Daniel Patrick Moynihan put out a report. Now it's known as the Moynihan Report. And he put on how there is a crisis in the black community that was going to just destroy them. And it was because 25%, I think it was 25% at the time, of black children were born out of wedlock. And he says this is a crisis. It's going to be this horrible thing. Of course, he was ridiculed for this. He's a prude. He was a Democrat, by the way. He wasn't a Republican or conservative. He was a liberal Democrat. Well, now it's 80%, or almost 79 or something like that percent of black children born out of wedlock live in a single-parent home. It's just mind-boggling.
Yeah.
And the effects that that's having on their community is, and no one's talking about. There's not. I say no one. Most people are not talking about this.
I wonder how much of this could be solved with like a YouTube tutorial on like here's how you act when you get pulled over. Like if every state did one.
They should. But see, that would be looked on as racism. They would say you're blaming the victim.
Really?
Yes, absolutely.
How?
Because you're saying that it is the victim's fault that the police shot him.
No. It's not like a how to avoid to get shot when you get pulled over.
Well, that's essentially what it is. I mean, even if you don't frame it that way.
I mean, you could throw it into a driver's ed and just make it a subsection. You know, like, hey, this is what happens when you don't drive well. Since we're all learning to drive, here's what happens when you drive well. You get pulled over.
You're just speaking from white privilege.
They do that when you get your when you're licensed to carry. That's part of the 6-hour class.
Is how to interact. What do they tell you to do?
Well, when you're carrying,
point it.
You make sure they can see it and that you have your finger on the trigger. No.
Is there a problem?
Yeah. From what I remember is, one is you have to hand them your license to carry and your license at the same time. But when you first get pulled over, turn your car off, put the keys on the dash, and stick your hands out the window, both hands. So that, because as soon as they run your license, they'll have.
They see you're carrying.
You're carrying.
Yeah.
Right. So then you give them your stuff, and then you do everything pretty slowly, especially if you're gonna reach for your thing. So the thing is to have both things ready, and say you're carrying, and it's on my right hip, basically. My strong hand right hip, basically. And then that's about it. They don't normally say anything.
Have you been pulled over with having?
Yeah.
And what did you
said,
do
you
that?
have it on you now? I go, yes. And they say, okay.
You want to see it?
You want to see it? I got it. It's loaded.
Well, that's what happened in, where was it? Minnesota?
Yeah, that happened to a guy.
Yeah, where he's like, I have a weapon. It's legal. And he's like, do you want me to show it? And he's like, no. And then he's like, no, it's right here. And he kept going. And or something, or I forget what it was. It was a terrible misunderstanding.
Yeah.
And I know some people are going to be angry that I would call it a misunderstanding and not like murder or whatever. But I don't want to sensationalize anything. But it was a terrible miscommunication between both of them. He wasn't reaching for the gun, right? And the cop was telling him, don't reach for anything. And he's like going for his license or something like over here. And yeah, I mean, he got in, they killed him, shot him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you run that risk.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they're running risk too because a lot of police officers get shot by people carrying guns. So, I mean, they run a risk every time. They don't walk up to cars with that kind of caution just because they've been trained to do so.
Yeah.
There's a reason why they're apprehensive also.
Yeah, you have to, especially when you're reaching for your insurance, you got to tell them what you're reaching for. That's why you tell them where it is. It goes, it's on my hip, and I'm going to get my insurance from my glove compartment. Yeah. Before you start moving towards stuff, you're gonna get shot.
It's too much of a hassle. Like in my mind, I want nothing to do with that. It's just too much of a hassle to carry.
That's me.
It is a hassle.
That is me. I don't have a license to carry. I don't, even though I actually really like that in America you can, and I think that everyone should in a way. Part of me thinks that. I think it's just, if I ever am in a position where somebody kills my child or my wife and I wasn't able to at least try to defend them, I'm going to never forgive myself.
Right.
And at the same time, to me, the odds of that happening are so extremely low in our society today that the hassle just outweighs it to me.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Especially with me, I have 3 small kids. If I were to park the minivan, wrangle all of them out of the van, walk like the quarter-mile walk to the front door, and it has that sticker, no concealed carry, I'm probably defeated at that point. I'm just going to ignore the sign and walk in with my gun anyway.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And there's so many places I go where you can't, it would be federal crime. I go on military installations, courthouses, hospitals, all of those, if they get federal funding, it's a federal offense then. Yeah. And so it's like I look at it and go, well, where would I even carry it? I can't take it to work, and I'm at work most of the time. Yeah. I'm on Facebook all the other part of the time, and so where am I going to use this? You can't shoot people on Facebook. You wish you could.
Yeah, sometimes I do. I just point my gun at my monitor. Wish I would. Yeah. That's a joke. Don't cancel me. I think I own a gun.
Yeah. No, I would really like, and if anybody out there is listening and is sympathetic or part of the Black Lives Movement, Black Lives Matter movement, I would love to have a conversation with them. And yeah, I'm going to push back. I have data I've read. I don't have a position. I don't necessarily have a perspective on it, but I do have a lot of information, and I've read widely from both sides. I mean, I don't just read. In fact, I hardly ever read people I agree with.
Yeah.
I read people I disagree with. That's who I prefer to read. So I'd much rather read from Glenn Lowry and John McWhorter. John, that's his name, John McWhorter, and Friedman from the Times or whoever, who I disagree almost completely with on everything. But so I've read very widely on these issues, and I just don't understand the complaints.
I could probably help you out with that.
With what?
Getting a listener.
Getting a listener, do that.
Do we have any listeners left? What are my numbers down?
Do we have anybody still on the channel?
You have. Let me check.
Well, I want to be fully canceled.
You have Brent and.
Oh, look what Brent says. Always hand the officer driver's license and license to carry. He will instruct you on how to behave afterwards. Do that. Yes, that is a good. And always move slowly. Slowly. We'll do the little tutorial right now. Don't move fast. Don't be jerky and don't be like the guy from the Men in Black where
Yeah.
the roaches.
nice slow movement.
The roach guy.
Yeah, the roach.
Remind me, bring up the roach guy when we're done here.
Okay.
I have something to say, but I don't want to make anybody mad.
So you want to do it off air?
Yeah,
Oh,
we got to do that one off air.
Okay, we'll do that one off air. For just so everyone knows, this is my. I thought you were going to wear your Black Lives Matter shirt,
No,
so I was going to match you. This is my straight out of church shirt.
I thought the Black Lives Matter with the MAGA hat was a great combo.
I did too, and I ordered a similar thing, but my hat didn't get here.
Oh man.
It was "Make Jesus King Again."
Oh, that's.
It was
good.
my straight out of church shirt.
I like that.
I did too.
I like that.
I
We'll
thought
have
we
to
could-
do another one, and we'll.
Yeah, we'll try
we'll
to
be
coordinate.
Twinkies.
Yeah. When I first wore this, I think people thought it was the straight out of Compton.
Yeah.
Because you still can't. I mean,
You
even
can't
when
see
do
that it says
you can't-
church.
Yeah.
Can they see it now?
There it is.
There you go.
Yeah.
Straight. See, I'm not lying. Yeah. Oh,
So,
I don't know. Yeah, you're running them off. We're we're getting them run off.
More before.
All right.
But yeah, you think you can get someone that would want to talk to me about that?
I could try.
Do that because I really am interested. I mean,
Okay.
I'm not wanting to debate. I
Right.
want to push back because I'm not just going to swallow answers.
Right.
But I really would love to hear what this is about. Really, I mean, give me the complaints. Explain to me what they are concretely and how whatever it is they're doing can really address those. One thing I find very troubling about their movement is, and this may be lack of exposure, it may be happening, I need someone to point me that direction, but I don't find any articulation, any Martin Luther King style articulation of the grievances and of the solutions that are being proposed. Mm-hmm. I find marching and yelling and screaming, and the problem, and it's as you say, Antifa, if it's a mixture and it's in a holy mixture of them, then you have a lot of burning going on, and I don't think that's going to change anything. Everybody into their positions.
And it's going to drive the companies out of that area.
Yes. Which is going to be even worse for the minorities that are there.
Right. And did we ever figure out where those piles of bricks were showing up from? Like who was dropping those off on every street corner?
According to Profit Facebook, it's George Soros.
Yeah.
That's what they say. I have no idea who is doing that.
That was just
that was very interesting.
very convenient.
Yeah.
Conveniently placed pallets of bricks.
Yeah. Problem is you have no idea how much, if any picture is real.
Right.
That's another problem I have. There's no way to know, and I don't trust Facebook's.
No.
What do they call it? They're fact checking.
Yeah.
Just like, Snopes that was my go-to forever.
Right.
Was Snopes. And then you come to find out they're not very good.
No.
They're terribly biased.
To me, it's like that DNA company. What is it, 23andMe?
Yes.
Has anybody checked up on them? Like, are they qualified? Or are they they're just sicko blood collectors? They're just like, oh yeah, you're 30% German. Like, does anybody know anything about that company?
No. And then that you would think they would be more. People get suspicious because they had that other company that just it was a complete scam. Remember that?
Which one?
What was the name of that company? It was a similar thing. They were going to do some type of thing, and she was like, they went public, and she became like a billionaire, and then it turned out to be a complete scam.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I forget what the name of the company was. I don't even remember her name now. It was a huge story like a year ago.
I did one of those finger prick food allergy tests over the mail, and I'm allergic to coffee.
That's ironic.
Right?
Did you used to drink coffee?
Yeah, I still drink coffee, but I can't remember. There's different acronyms for different kinds of blood tests for food allergies. And this is one type, and then there's a better type that you get from a doctor. And I think these are just like inflammatory foods. Like if I eat this, I'll probably retain water.
Oh.
So I replaced coffee with pre-workout in the morning. So, and I just shed like 20 pounds of water weight.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was crazy.
So instead of drinking coffee, what do you do?
Just, I found a mild pre-workout. It doesn't have like 600 milligrams of caffeine. It only has 200, which is basically...
What's a pre-workout then? I'm not sure. I thought you were doing exercises.
I do exercise. Pre-workout is just like, it's a supplement that you mix in a shaker cup, and all it is caffeine. And it's got a few...
I didn't know that existed.
Yeah. It's just caffeine, and it's flavored. Like I get
and why do you want the caffeine?
Just because I need to wake up.
Oh, it wakes you up.
So instead of drinking a cup of coffee, I drink this pre-workout, and it's like 2 cups of coffee.
Oh, okay.
I'm awake,
but without the food allergy in it.
Right. Right. So there's something in the coffee that makes me retain water.
Interesting.
So I just switched coffee for.
And you lost a bunch of water weight.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, just cutting out coffee.
And where do you get that test at? Where does that get done?
I can't remember the name of the site I used, but if you just Google food allergy,
they send it to you. You do it at home, or how does it work?
They mail you this packet, and it has a return envelope and stuff, and there's like a little similar to like the diabetic finger prick thing, and just put it on a bunch of tabs and mail it off.
And then they tell you what you're allergic to.
Yeah, they'll send you a PDF, and it has a ton of different foods, and they say you had a high reaction to shellfish and coffee, and a medium reaction to this, and then no reaction to this. So
I need to do that.
You ought to do that.
I always felt like I had a lot of water.
That's not water.
Yeah.
That's just good old-fashioned fat right there.
Yeah, I've lost like 50 pounds during this quarantine and stuff.
Really?
So, yeah.
I think most people have gained weight.
Well, they should have lost weight instead of pretending to be experts on how COVID spreads. And yeah, what have you done this quarantine? To our 4 listeners, how have you bettered yourself? Did you?
Me?
No, to our 4 listeners.
Oh, how they have. You need to speak to the.
Sorry.
How have you bettered yourself?
Did you sit around pretending to be an expert on COVID for 6 months?
And masks.
And masks? Or did you exercise? And eat right?
See, I was hoping that when churches were all closed and not meeting, that all the pastors were going to be like really using that time to come up with really great sermons, so
Right.
that the sermons coming back into church are going to be just barn burners.
Mm-hmm.
Hope they did that.
I don't know. I haven't been back.
You haven't been back, huh?
Sorry. It's the singing.
It's the singing.
I'm afraid I'm going to get COVID.
Well, I'm afraid of the singing too, but it has nothing to do with COVID. It's the singing in our church also, but if that's COVID, we've had COVID forever.
No, when it first came out, I was just so diehard of the opinion that, like, if there is an online solution, let's do that and eliminate the risk of exposure.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I decided tomorrow. Tomorrow we're gonna go back to.
Oh yeah?
Yeah.
See, I've been wondering how many people are not going to ever go back and going to keep doing online. I'm going to find that and churches are going to have to adapt to that thing. That would be a radical change in philosophy on what a church is.
Yeah, and I mean, for me, it's like I've never been really exposed to something like Oak Knoll, is wonderful church, and there was like a lack of community because everybody lived 40 miles away from the church. Whereas the church in Corpus Christi that I went to, everybody lived like 10, 15 minutes away from the church.
Right.
So and I was young and single back then, so it was nothing for me to just drop what I was doing and go fellowship with people from the church. But now we all have young families and we all live an hour away from each other. Like, there's that lack of community and fellowship and stuff like that.
It seems to happen to a lot of churches.
Yeah.
Even in places where they live close together. So, like, when I started the church, planted the church in Querétaro in Mexico. The first few years, it was like every Sunday, everyone would get together, usually at my house, but everyone would get together and we'd all take food and be like this big party, basically, and sit around and talk and fellowship and have that community. And then over the years, they're not doing that anymore. And they haven't actually moved further away. It's not that their distances have changed for them. So I think that there's actually a certain natural, I don't know, maybe call it a natural progression in that direction, for better or worse.
Yeah.
And so do you think that churches should be doing that more?
Absolutely. And I think people need to be getting off Facebook more and hanging out with their friends more. And I think that it's just a tool that is being misused. All social media, not just Facebook, but we're losing our community. If I can just log in and see your entire day, like, what are we going to talk about? Whereas if I don't log in, I can come and be like, hey, what'd you do this week? Like, let's have a conversation.
And the conversations we would have in person are going to be much richer and less controversial at the same time than ones we would have online.
Exactly.
It's a lot easier to say something and say something wrong and take something wrong online than it is in person.
Yeah,
because there's so much lost.
Yeah.
In the transmission.
There's no sarcasm font.
No. Although emojis try, right?
Right.
And I hate emojis, so that's probably why I offend everybody, because I just hate emojis.
Yeah, they're the worst.
To me, it's like we're going back. We're going backwards.
So,
that was Egyptian writing, and it wasn't good. There's a reason why we developed phonetic alphabets and sophisticated grammar. And now we're going back to like acronyms and pictographs.
Yeah, they started putting them in my terminal. So for those listeners who don't know, if you've ever seen a movie where somebody's hacking on something and he's on the black screen with the green text and he's typing, like, that's a terminal.
Yes.
That's where I live my day. And they put emojis in my terminal.
No way.
Yes. Some applications, when you're running something, will give you smiley faces and all kinds of wackadoo stuff. And I'm like, just give me the output.
No
so
kidding.
I can read it.
Well, see, I look at the emojis, and half of them, I don't know what they mean.
Yeah.
So I'm looking at them, and there's this one with the little face. I call it the smiley face, but it's not. It's a face, and the eyes are like slanted, and then there's like tears. Is that laughing or crying?
That's laughing.
I think that's laughing so hard you're crying.
Yeah.
See, I don't know what they mean.
See,
and half of them are so tiny I can't see them.
Nah.
So then I don't know what they're even. Like I'm looking at them like.
Right up here.
What am I
Tells
looking
you
at?
what they are. Look. You care. He's hugging a heart.
Oh yeah, I use the care
That's
one a lot.
laughing. Wow. Sad. See, these are for the little retards that can't understand. Andy, he is not happy. Hence the mean face. It's all you socially dum-dums out there.
Well, there are here. There's what 6 of them.
Yeah.
7 of them,
7.
and you go on my phone or on not my phone. I
pages
delete
of
them off of mine. There's pages. I'm like, how do you go through all these? And we got away from this.
Well, you're on Slack too, right?
Yeah.
You know you can add your own.
No, I didn't know that because I
Oh,
don't use
man.
any of them.
I'm gonna send you a bunch of them.
I use my words. I love words, and so if I'm mad, I'll put I'm angry. It's
Right.
like
Yeah, I don't use them either though. But it's nice when it can mean a whole lot. if you can put like wow and sad without writing, because that says wow, that's quite crazy, that makes me sad.
I just would rather write that out. And then we know exactly what I thought about that.
Yeah, I type fast enough to type.
Yes, it's like to me, I'm like boom.
Type out those 2 words.
Yeah.
I've typed so much and for so long that, what I think, it just comes out on the keyboard. I don't have to I'm not like some retards.
Are you allowed to say that word?
I am.
We just lost our last
The
two
last
listeners.
listener, we know what their problem
You
was.
are canceled, sir.
We did lose some, actually.
This is a filler episode. It doesn't count.
No, that's crazy. No, I think you're right. But at the same time, I think that there's a certain advantage to online church services.
Oh yeah.
Huge advantage to be able to go to the church, go to multiple churches.
Yes.
Right. So I can attend Grace Community Church, John MacArthur's church in California, and I can attend Timothy Keller's church in New York, and I can attend churches in Australia or anywhere I want to go that are willing to live stream. I can go to their church and be a part, at least some degree, a part of that church. I think that's a great thing.
And so what we got to do is we got to get them all on YouTube, and then we got to get people to figure out how to operate YouTube so they can subscribe to them all, and then you can create a week-long playlist, and it's treated like podcast.
Yeah.
So you're listening to messages and commenting.
Now what we're trying to figure out is how to do the open meeting this way, which is a bit of a challenge for us. Partly because we don't have our own building. If we had our own building, we could do this. It'd be very easy for us, or easier. Without our own building is proving to be very difficult.
Yeah, Google Meet limits you to a certain number of people, and Zoom costs money.
Well, yeah, I pay for Zoom because I use it for my podcast that I do during, not this one, because this one we don't allow people to come on and interact, only through the chat. But on the ones I do by myself, I do it on Zoom, and anyone can call in and discuss whatever I'm talking about with me.
Yeah.
Nobody ever does for whatever reason, but I always offer that.
And I think the online church is good because it can be done on your time.
Yeah, that too. Yeah.
For us, we don't live terribly far away, but it's a 30-minute drive to church.
Mm-hmm.
But if I don't have to make that 30-minute drive, that's an hour I get to save.
Yeah. No, I agree. I see a lot of advantages to it. The disadvantage to it is what you're saying, that you lose out on that personal community that you have. And I don't know how to replace it or augment online with something of that nature, how that would work. And I don't know how vital it is. I think it's important, but I don't know how vital that is. So how do you feel? You've been doing it a lot longer, this online. So what is your assessment of your personal, how would I put it, your personal walk as a Christian, not having that? What part did that play?
Oh, it's gone completely downhill. I'm not reading like I used to. I'm not praying like I used to. I don't even think I'm watching church anymore. Like it's one of those things that it's just become it's dwindled away. And that's the conversation we had yesterday. Like, hey, we're going back. Like, this is not working out. Because yeah, we get to do it on our own time, but The Boys season 2 came out on Amazon, so we're gonna watch that. And next thing I know, I'm exhausted and want to go to bed. It's like once we finally get the kids put to sleep and all that good stuff. Or, Sunday morning happens and we'll start one and we'll start watching it, and then the kids are just not cooperating whatsoever. Everybody's screaming, everybody's fighting. It's like, oh, we should probably have a daycare. There's a daycare at church. Remember that? Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, see, that's the problem. As much as I like it, I do see. I did have that concern. That and that's John MacArthur's point, right? I don't know if you've followed him much on what's going on over there at Grace Community with John MacArthur. You know he is, right?
No.
Oh, you don't?
No.
Okay. John MacArthur's probably the most famous evangelical pastor in America today, be my guess, or one of them. As far as, I mean, here in San Antonio it would be Hagee, right? But as far as nationwide, it would be probably John MacArthur. I have a lot of respect for him, tremendous amount of respect for him. He's old school. He's like 80 something, but he's old school Bible teacher. He's not one of the new school type of, very engaging type preacher. He's the old school. We're going to read 50 verses on the sermon. We're going to examine the text in depth. We're going to do exegesis. We're going to do real expository teaching. That's John MacArthur. You listen, any sermon, that's how they are. They're not flashy, right? There's no presentations. There's no screens. It's just real old school. But he's got this mega church in California. He's got like 7,000 people that go to his church. Anyways, they're closed down. The state's closed down all churches in California.
Oh, he's that dude.
He's the one that's meeting, even though they're shut down, against court orders. And his point is that online church does not work, and people, there's more problems in the world than just health problems.
Yeah. And
that the results, the consequences of trying to do online is killing people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think. I'm man enough to admit I was wrong, and I think I was wrong about being so hardcore online versus in person. And it's not just church; it's school too. Like everybody who has kids that I know is about ready to throw those school-issued tablets through their window. It's just the online schooling is
not working
at all.
Do you think it works in any level of education? I'm curious because I do have a friend who's doing college online.
College.
You think college could work that way?
If you're disciplined enough to do your work, I mean, you're going to be disciplined enough to do your work in person or in college.
Okay.
Once you get to that age.
But you think in like primary, secondary, even high school?
Maybe high school. High school was a blur to me. It was like 20 years ago, I think.
Do you think you would have finished high school if it had been online?
I would have finished high school in like 6 months if it would have been online.
No, you would have done it faster.
Yeah.
If you could.
I got bored. I was one of those bored students, which didn't help me at all.
Right. No.
Yeah. And I think college would be good online. I'm not a fan of college, especially right now.
Why is that?
Become one, the cost. Like, why does it cost so much? And two, like the quality of people they're cranking out.
Yeah, wait. You're preaching, brother.
The system's broken, and I think it needs to be changed. I think we need to adopt a little bit. I don't know what country does this, where it's like mandatory military for all men once they finish school.
A lot of countries do that.
Yeah.
Or some version of that.
Some version of that.
So Mexico has a lottery system. All the men in the country, they're still a patriarchy, so they don't do it to women. And I don't ever see Mexican women protesting that. Interesting. When they're protesting for equality, they're never saying, we want draft. We want to be drafted. Anyways, all Mexican men have to enter into the lottery, and you go on the day, and they have like ping pong balls, and they call your name, and they pick one out, and if it's white, then you don't have to do your service. You're done. That's it. You go home. That's done. You get your little card, and you're done. And if you get a black ball, you go do service. That's how they do it.
Yeah, I think right now college is just a very expensive daycare. For people.
Was it like that when you went to college?
Oh no, my generation was perfect, just like the boomers. I didn't go to college.
Oh, you didn't? I thought you did.
No. Okay. Well, I made an attempt to go to one of those technical institutes.
Right
out of high school.
Before you go there, I just want to say the reason I'm surprised is, and partly I didn't realize that, but then also on behalf of the viewer that's left, most people would think to get to what you're doing now, you would have to go to college and take computer science. So I want to preface what you're going to say with that, because
There's multiple routes.
Okay, so
to get
proceed.
to where I'm going. Okay, so first attempt at college was a failure. I was there for 6 months. I dropped out, and then I was a piece of crap for 5 years. And then I went back when I was 23, and I crushed it. I was crazy, taking like 23 hours a semester. I have a degree, an associate's degree in network engineering, something, computer science.
Okay.
And I'm like an accounting class away from another associate's degree in network security and digital forensics. So after that, you just pay your dues. You hop around and eventually become a specialist.
And by a specialist, what do you mean exactly?
Well, hopping around is general IT, desktop support, server support.
Just getting your feet wet in all the different ponds.
Yeah, just kind of scoping it out. And that's not the development route. I don't know what it takes to become a developer.
Mm-hmm.
I would assume a 4-year degree because there's a lot of schools that'll claim to teach you to be a programmer in 12 weeks. They don't cover data modeling or like anything.
I've done enough programming to know that programming has become so sophisticated, and what you're programming for and the interface and everything have become extremely sophisticated. Back from the days when people a lot of times envision programming and they're thinking back in BASIC and C++ and stuff, and this is way beyond that.
Yeah.
Way beyond that.
Yeah. So I don't know enough about it to say this is what you need to become a developer, a full stack developer, but I would imagine it's a 4-year degree, at least. But for me, I was just kind of like the janitor of IT, just cleaning it up. You can go into many different fields, backups, cloud, server, when you got Linux specialists.
Is there a path to that doesn't go through college at all?
Yeah, there were like Rackspace offered a little academy where you would just pop out kind of knowing the basics, knowing enough to be a server admin or a network security admin, knowing enough to get around.
So they were willing to basically train you.
Right.
From knowing nothing, essentially.
Right. Yeah.
Just going into work and then they would teach it to you.
Yeah, we had kids coming onto the floor doing stuff, and they were, a waitress at Chewy's like 6 weeks ago. So, and it was intense,
Yeah.
And they may not know like the TCP stack like the back of their hand like I do, but I mean they know enough to do a good job.
To do the job they've been assigned.
And they definitely have the drive to become someone in the industry.
And then once you get in like that, you can learn it, right?
Oh, absolutely.
You start picking it up. You start learning from other people.
The company I'm working for now, they allow, I think, a week every quarter. You get to take a week off and learn something new. So just to stay up on technology and all that good stuff.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, see, that's one of the things I try to talk about on the podcast from all different angles. I mean, I do a lot from construction because I'm in it. I tell people, do not take trade, don't go to trade school. It's a complete waste of money.
Yeah.
And I'm talking about from the construction perspective, right? From that path. I don't know about necessarily other professions. But if you want to get into any type of construction, do not pay for trade school. It's a complete scam. The companies will teach you this.
Yeah.
And they'll pay you to work while you're learning.
Go down to your local plumber shop and just say, I want to be a grunt.
That's right.
Go be a grunt.
I'm willing to do whatever.
Yeah.
I'll work hard and do whatever. Teach me how to be a plumber. You will come out being a master plumber.
Exactly.
With a license and everything, and they'll pay for it. You'll never pay a penny, and you'll get paid to do it.
Exactly.
And as you get better, they'll pay you more. They won't artificially depress your wages because they're paying for all this learning either. But for the most part, I mean, maybe someone will try, but there's always another shop.
And I know it's like 4 years to become a journeyman plumber. I don't know how long it is to become a master plumber.
Yeah, I don't know about plumbing, but I know people who have taken that route.
Right.
And gone in, know nothing at all about electrician was the experience I have with people. Know nothing, zero. And they immediately put them into school, gave them a job. They're working. They're making more than they were making before, and they're going to school. And as they get their licenses, their certifications, as they get their hours in and move up that ladder, they're paying them more and more, and then they're master electrician eventually. Yeah. And get there no slower, in fact faster than if you go to a trade school.
Oh, I know, like out of all the people I know, there's maybe 5 people I know that went into college at 18 and got their degree by 22. Like, most of us took a path to sow our wild oats and party, and we didn't know.
Do you see a difference between boys and girls on that?
Most of them were girls
That didn't get their degree, or did?
that did go in and just knock it out, and they are whatever, dental hygienist, or whatever they are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's what I've seen. Girl, and there's a lot of discussion or research being done that our school systems were redesigned, they were retooled to accommodate women from the very beginning, from primary school up. They have been retooled to make them more compatible for how women learn. And it's why some people say that women are doing much better in school than men do, and better than they've ever done before. Women are doing better than they've ever done in history in school. And some people think this because the school system is not designed for how men learn.
Interesting.
Yeah. Which, if you're, all my kids are grown, so it doesn't really, I have no personal stake in it. But if I were like you and had little kids, I would definitely be looking into it. Because if that's true, then basically boys are put in a system where they are designed to fail in order to equalize the outcome with women. And I don't want to sound conspiratorial or anything, or even social justice warrior thing, but there was a problem in that women were not doing well in comparison to men as far as degrees earned and things like that. Even at high school level, boys were doing better than women back before. And now most valedictorians are women. It's completely changed around. And part of the problem, according to some people, some researchers, is that school has been retooled for women to make learning make how females learn the priority.
Interesting.
Yeah, because they don't learn the same. I mean, I had 2 boys and a girl, and they don't learn the same. You can't teach a girl something the way you would teach a boy something with the same effect, with the same success rate.
They're not equal.
No. Well, they're equal, but they're not the same. They have the same difference.
There goes our last viewer.
There they go. There we go. We did it. We got full cancellation. We are 100% cancellation. And so, do you regret that you didn't do better at the beginning and get started sooner with things?
No, I would have never ended up here. I was in Houston, so love Houston.
You love Houston? Do you like
Houston?
Oh, okay.
I grew up like 45 minutes outside of Houston.
Towards the coast?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, in between Houston and Galveston. So it was nice to have a major city adjacent if I ever needed it, if I ever wanted to go watch a ball game or something.
Correct.
But I want nothing to do with living inside of Houston.
Yeah.
Same with San Antonio. I want nothing to do with living inside San Antonio. No, I think 18 is too young to know what you want to do forever.
That's one problem with college, that you have to, it's like, decide what you're going to do for the rest of your life and then invest $100,000 into that choice.
No, take years off, plural, years off.
You think so?
Go work, live with mom and dad. I don't care if they want you to or not. Take years off, stay with mommy and daddy, make money, experience the world, and then either continue what you're doing or go to college.
So what did you do? You went to college, you said, didn't do well, dropped out. For 5 years, what did you do? What was your plan?
I was a waiter, then I was a plumber's assistant, then, I just kind of lived life. You hear that too?
Yeah, that rumble.
Huge truck passed by.
Is that what that is?
Okay.
Oh, okay. Well, they've been going by, and we've been picking up the thing. I was looking at that.
These
Anyways.
are great microphones.
Yeah, a little too well. We need to reduce the gain, maybe lower the gain on them. Anyway, we'll leave them like that for now. To look into that. Anyway, so you were waiter, plumber. You did plumbing?
Yeah, I was a plumber's apprentice for a year and a half, 2 years, and I ended up getting like this wicked rash on my leg or foot. I thought it was athlete's foot because it was middle of August, and we were roughing in new houses. And it climbed up the back of my calf, and I went to a dermatologist, and he was like, I don't know how you've lasted this long. You are like Irish and Scottish. You are the whitest person on the planet. You do not need to be outside, like, ever. And it was a staph infection with psoriasis.
Oh.
And he gave me like meds. It took about a month and a half to clear up.
Wow.
But that was like a Friday afternoon, and Monday morning I was at Del Mar College signing up for late registration. So it was just like night and day shift. I was forced to figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
So.
And did you know what you wanted to do when you were going to college? When you went into college, you have an idea what you wanted to do?
I knew computer science because I've always been a fan of computers and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So I went in as a developer. I took my first C++ class and was like, I need to change majors immediately.
Why is that?
I am not that kind of nerd.
Oh, okay.
I didn't want to do all the math, which is funny because I married the math teacher.
That is interesting.
She does our math. So then I talked to a professor who was like, come to the dark side, come to network security. So I did that and just loved it.
Yeah?
It was fun. Had a lot of fun there. So.
And that's how you got it. So then you did a 2-year course? Is that what you did, 2-year degree?
2 years, and they offered Cisco training, which is a network hardware company. And so when I was done, for my degree, they only required the first 2. So I did 2 more semesters, just finishing up the last 2, just taking 1 class apiece.
Right.
So then I could get my first Cisco certification, which is like a big deal.
That is a big deal.
The first one is a big deal. It says, okay, this guy's not an idiot. He knows how to do networking. And it was at the time a requirement to get into rack-based network security.
Oh.
So
you had to have the Cisco.
you had to have the Cisco certification. The first
Okay.
one. Yeah. So I mean, and then I've gone through so many. Like I think at one point I had like 19.
Oh wow.
So, like, and now they've all expired. I was like a certified ethical hacker for 2 years, whatever that meant. Like it was a really cool name, but the test, like you could probably pass the test.
Well, then it's not very good.
It was not a good test, but like the hurdles, you either had to take like a $5,000 boot camp, which was to me provided for free by the United States government. Thank you. Or it was like you had to have so many employers sign off that you had so much experience in various parts of security.
Okay.
Like there were so many hurdles just to be able to take this test at the time.
That was the real test.
Yeah. And then like you get in and it's like a 50-question test and it's like, are you an idiot? Is this a trick? Or like while you're taking the test, they send you a malicious link on your phone. Like that's part of the test. No, it was just multiple choice.
Yeah.
Anyway, and now they're all cloud. Like, do I know Google Cloud? Do I know Amazon's cloud? So.
Yeah, computing has changed dramatically.
Yeah.
In recent years.
I like that. What is it? Google's taking on college. They're like, hey, we're no longer gonna require college degrees, and as a matter of fact, we're gonna offer an alternative. And like,
yeah, there's a lot of companies that are doing this.
Yeah.
So companies are prohibited from assessing IQ tests in America. It's considered discrimination. So they can't give you as a part of an interview an IQ test. In fact, I don't think they can give you one at all ever. If I'm not mistaken, but they certainly can't do it as part of your hiring process. So they have no way to assess your actual intelligence or intellectual capability.
Well, I took one on Facebook. I got like 185.
Nice. I got 395. Don't be the first liar. No. Yeah, so they can't do that. So, which is what really companies are looking for. They're looking for people who are smart.
Right.
That's what they're looking for. Nobody knows what they're going to train anybody they hire. Mm-hmm. No, everybody goes through training. No matter where you went to school, you're still going to go through a training session, and they're hoping that you're smart enough that will be a very short training session. But they can't assess IQ tests. But the SATs are essentially an IQ test, which is why they have one reason why companies have required college.
Interesting.
Because then they can use that as their de facto IQ test. And whether you got into college and what your score was, all that they can look at. And so that essentially tells them how smart you are. Where if they could, if you want to make college cheap, then just say that companies can assess IQ tests, and it'll immediately start lowering the cost of college, because then the demand will go down.
Yeah.
Because companies will say, well, we don't care whether you have college. Take an IQ test. We'll see how smart you are, how easily you learn, and we'll hire those that can learn at the rate we need them to learn for these particular positions, and college will immediately start going down. That amongst other things. I mean, you got to get the government out of college loans. That's what's driving. The primary driver of college costs is the government loaning money. That's the number one problem. As long as the government is backing the loans and guaranteeing them, costs are going to skyrocket. There's no way to beat that. There's too much of a slush fund behind it. So colleges know that they can make the price anything they want, and the whole school system is going to do the marketing for them and convince everybody that you have to go to college to be somebody. So they have this enormous marketing machine that starts when you're born and is drilled into your head for 18 years. And then the government's going to say, we're going to guarantee any amount of money the college wants to charge you. We will guarantee that loan. And so the colleges raise the prices accordingly. Wow.
I wonder if, like, I can hear my kids.
Oh, don't worry about it.
I wonder if there would ever be like some kind of law to how much they could charge for the same class. Because to me, the difference in price between community college and a university is a no-brainer. Mm-hmm. Like, why would I pay $20,000 a semester I could get for $2,000 a semester?
Exactly. So I agree.
There has to be some intervention there.
The problem is with those laws, they're counterproductive. So the best way to lower prices is with free market economics. So consider it this way. You go to Whole Foods, and in Whole Foods, you go and you get a box of cereal and it costs you $3,295. And you go to Walmart and you get a box and it costs $3.95 for a box of cereal. Now the government could come out and say the prices have to be the same, which they do in some countries, right? You have to pay the same. It doesn't work. It does not lower prices. Walmart did not lower their prices because there were laws saying they had to charge what H-E-B charges.
Yeah.
H-E-B charging less forces the others to lower their price. The worst thing you can do for consumers is to give a federally mandated mafia where they all agree on pricing, because that's essentially what you're mandating with that law. You're saying we want all colleges to get together and decide how much college should cost.
So then colleges need to be businesses. That's
right. Which means the government cannot back the loans.
Yeah.
Because that just screws up the economics of it.
Yeah.
If I wanted to borrow money from you, and you knew that if I didn't pay you back, you lost your money, you would be very cautious on how much you loaned me, when you loaned it to me, for how long you loaned it to me, how it was going to get paid back, what am I going to do with the money? You would be very, very careful of that. And that loan would like water seek its level between my ability to pay and your ability to assume the risk. Mm-hmm. And it would seek a level that we could both agree to, right? And nobody would have to tell us what that is. We would each know, because the antagonism between the borrower and the lender would seek that level. If Nolan comes in and says, anything you loan him, I'll pay it back if he doesn't, and you know he has endless cash, you're going to loan me every penny you got.
Right.
And I'm going to borrow every penny you can hand me. There'll be no limitation because he's going to pay it back. So you're not loaning me money. And it's not based on what I can do with the money or what I can turn it into or what my ability to pay it back is. It is solely based on how much he has. And he has he's the government. So he has an endless supply. Because all he has to do is, if he can't raise taxes, all he has to do is raise inflation and cut all the money in half. Or cut it into quarters. He can come up with all the dollar bills he wants to. Endless supply to infinity. So you charge whatever you want. And I borrow whatever you're willing to give. And there is no antagonism anymore to say, no, you cannot afford a $500,000 degree because you are not smart enough to work in that field and make that amount of money. You're going to have to reassess your ambitions. And as long as that's the case, it's not going down. Prices are going to skyrocket.
Well, that's depressing.
It is depressing. That's my job here on the podcast, is I'm the depressor.
Now I'm sad. You're really killing the vibe, man.
I hope I ran everyone off. We're almost done. We're almost at full cancellation here.
Do I still have a job?
Yeah, I know, right? Am I getting canceled? So how did you get saved? I was curious about that. We talked a little bit about it, but I've never really got the full story on that.
My granny flat out harassed me.
She was saved.
She was saved.
Okay.
And she was going to a church, little church called Liberty Baptist in Corpus Christi.
Okay.
And flat out harassed me every single day to come to church. Till finally I did it just to shut her up.
Just so she would quit. She was the widow from the Gospels.
Yeah.
Okay. She wore you down.
I went, and I mean, this was 2006, so forgive me if I don't account for everything that went down. So,
right.
My buddy Mike went there, and I was still doing very bad in life. I was.
Were anyone else in your family a Christian?
Proclaimed to be, yes. But
okay.
Not a church going Christian.
Okay.
At that time.
Okay.
So one time turned into 2 times, 2 times turned into, okay, I'm going every other week now. And what is the name of that place that they have in Corpus for young men? The roll-off home?
Oh, yeah.
Some dudes from the roll-off home came. And they were doing I don't know if it was a revival. I don't know what it was at the time. But that's when I saw for the first time that it's like, oh, there's people like me who are literally trash who have just turned it around. They can get saved. And it was one of their testimonies that just hit right there, man.
Wow.
And it's time. Yeah, let's do it.
And that was like in 2006?
That was in 2006, around November.
And what was your grandmother's response?
Oh, she was thrilled. She was so happy. And that's when I really turned around. I was already in college my first semester, but I was still not living a good life. Still kind of digging myself out, if you will. Mm-hmm. And it's all been uphill from there.
Wow. And then you kept going to that church in Corpus, or?
I kept going to that church in Corpus, and it was a very small church where there wasn't many young people. I think I was 23 at the time, and the next youngest person to me was like 45.
Old enough to be your dad.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
So my buddy Mike got married, and his wife wanted to be around other young people, so they went and looked, and they found Bible Believers Baptist Church, which was right up the road from where I lived. Mm-hmm. So I kind of migrated over there, and they had a great scene. Wonderful pastor, Bevins Welder, just a great preacher, straight up from the Bible. That's where I met Mike and Leslie Costanzo.
That's where they were going.
That's where.
Okay, so I've never been to that church, but I've heard of it. I've definitely heard of it. Heard it's very good church.
Very good church. Mm-hmm. So I stayed there till.
So is that how you came to San Antonio, or came to the church at Oakno?
Yes.
Through Mike and Leslie?
Right.
Through your acquaintance with them?
Right. I was working for a small IT company, third-party IT company, and they were not paying up. They wanted me to do like ridiculous things to get a tiny little bump in pay.
Right.
And I was like, well, my old roommate, my college roommate, went to this place called Rackspace. He's calling it the Google of Texas. So I hit him up and I was like, hey, are y'all hiring? And he's like, are you kidding me? Yes, send me your resume. So I applied and I got a job at Rackspace, and I moved to San Antonio, and I called Mike and I was like, hey, where do y'all go to church? And he's like, it's different.
That's funny. That's funny.
So I went, and
I laugh like that because I've said the same thing,
Yeah.
right, to people. There when I was going there, that was like my first like comment, like, where do you go? It's different. Just want you
Yeah.
to know that going in, not bad, different.
not bad, different. Yeah, because Bible Believers Baptist, that was a suit and tie church. And I think first time I went to Oaknola, I was in a suit and tie.
Oh, really?
Yeah, probably the first few times I went to Oaknola.
Oh,
I was
wow.
in a suit and tie.
You were trying to set a trend. Didn't work, did it?
Nope, not at all.
Didn't it take?
Thank God. It was hot. It stinks wearing a suit and tie.
In Corpus.
In Corpus and San Antonio.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
In the summertime, man,
Yeah, that's brutal.
love casual churches. Best thing y'all ever did.
Have you been to a cowboy church?
No. There's one up around Spring Branch.
I don't know how they all are, but when I first heard about them, they were like actually sitting on bales of hay.
Yeah. I'm not opposed to it.
No, I always thought that was interesting. I know there's a lot of cowboys who like them.
Right.
Actual cowboys out here like cowboy church.
I want to know how
Take
hot
them.
it gets. Like, what's their
That's a
August
good question.
like?
I don't know.
I mean, I'll definitely be down in the wintertime.
Yeah.
Like, that'd be awesome. But, yeah, that's the story.
Well, that is very interesting. Very, very good. Oh, we're out of time. I really appreciate you coming in, Josh. It was
That's
very
3
interesting and
hours.
almost 3 hours. Yeah, we're right at it.
Let's go for 4.
Let's go for 4. Let's go for broke. We still got a listener. We're gonna punish them for sure. Sticking around out there, they were all supposed to log off. No, I really appreciate you coming in. It's a fascinating story, and I think it's very encouraging, and I hope that any young men, especially, or young women, because I'm equal opportunity around here. I down with the patriarchy, that realize. It's one of the big things I try to push is that there are ways to prosperity, there are ways to success in life that don't go through the college path. They don't go through whatever they're selling in school all the time. There are ways to get there. I'm not saying that college is bad, and that's not one of the paths. That is, and there's other paths also. And
Yeah, there was some. I'm blanking on her name. I probably don't even want to say her name. There was some woman who was freaking out about her kid freaking out about going to college. I ended up like writing this long Instagram message to her, like, "Hey, you don't have to have everything figured out right now. And anybody who tells you that you do, tell them to go kick rocks. Enjoy your journey."
Yeah.
And I think she appreciated it.
I hope so. I mean, one of the things that I told my kids, and I try to tell everyone that will listen to me, I don't regret the decisions I made. So I went at 15, I started my first church and went into ministry at that age, dropped out of school. I never finished high school. Probably didn't even make it to my sophomore year, maybe. I don't remember now. Not very far. And went into ministry and started churches. I don't regret working in the ministry and being involved in that, and I still don't, but I do regret how I went in. So for me, it was the default path. That's what my dad did. That's what my granddad did. All my uncles did that. All my cousins did. That's the family business. So I went into the family business in a way, and I regret that I did not do it more consciously, more purposefully. It was just sort of the default path. And now as I look back, I realize that we tend to do that. That's in everything. It's a bad analogy, but one of the most impacting studies I've read shows that what the actual percentages are of young women who marry abusive husbands, and how many of them have an abusive dad. It's the percentage is overwhelming. It's not a stereotype. It's real. I mean, this is an overwhelming majority of women who come out of an abusive home with an abusive dad will marry an abusive husband or be with an abusive man. It's just, and the reason I think is because we gravitate to what we know. We prefer what we know, even if it's horrible, than the fear of something unknown. Unknown is very fearful for most human beings. We'll order the same food we kind of like, rather than try something new on the menu that we might hate or we might love. Just that fear of the unknown. And so many people, I think, go into life and end up at 50 or 60 years old, and they're doing what they're doing because they never wanted to take a risk. And so And there's a lot of reasons that, but you know, I'd like to try. I try to encourage people to, you know, branch out, try to do something. You don't know what you might like.
Yeah.
You don't know what might make you happier. You don't know what might make you more fulfilled. You don't know what might make you prosperous. And it may seem like, you know, well, there's no money in that field. Well, you don't know. Some people do make money when, even in fields where nobody's making money, some people do. Right? 100 grocery stores go out of business, but one of them turns into HEB.
Yeah.
So maybe that's you, and you know, play the odds, but you also need to realize that we all have different. It's not like it's roll of the dice, right? Somebody had a special HEB had a special talent that they brought into the field that others didn't have, and if people have a talent, they need to look for a field where they can employ that in ways that are not expected, because that's how you become prosperous in it.
Yeah.
If you're doing what everyone else can do, then you're not going to do well.
And then also, please, if you are going to college, look at the practicality of what your degree is and
Yes.
how to make money. Just because you're good at drawing in high school doesn't mean that you're going to make a living off drawing.
Correct.
It's very, very hard to be an artist.
Very hard. But there are fields where you can go in with that skill, let's say
Right.
drawing, where you wouldn't think drawing exists, and yet the ability, the skill, the talent
Yes.
can be employed in something that nobody's used it for like that, and make you unique in the field.
It's all about the journey.
Yeah.
So take your talent and look at where it may be applied. Mm-hmm. Just because you're good at art doesn't mean you have to have an art degree.
That's right.
You know,
That's exactly right.
there's a lot more money in architecture. You know, be an architect.
Yes. Well, see, like Ben Carson talks about how he went into brain surgery because he was very good at foosball. Because they told him, well, neurosurgery, one of the biggest things is you got to have really good eye-hand coordination.
Yeah.
And he says, well, I'm really good at foosball. He was apparently pretty good. And he's like, I'm going to be a neurosurgeon. And turns into be one of the greatest neurosurgeons in history. So, you know, there's all kinds of skills that can be applied in ways you wouldn't imagine possible. And so you got to be open to those things. Well, we got to end it there. Next week will be our final show for a while. We're going to be on hiatus for a little while, and for a few weeks. Nolan's leaving me, and I can't do the cameras and do the talking or whatever. So we'll wait for him to come back. So we'll be on hiatus for about 3 weeks. So next week will be our final one for the season, we'll call it that. And we're going to have Mike Pemberton here. We're going to be talking to Mike Pemberton about his journey from atheism to Christianity in the ministry. So I'm looking forward to that conversation. Josh, thanks again for coming in.
It's been a pleasure.
Hey, great. Good to see you. Have a great day. We'll see you